Hey, how's it going there, Cameron? So I'm just going to adjust my phone here. It's a really kind of a shaky sort of setup. So for some reason, it's harder to do this live thing. 7 a.m. Wow. Okay, Jeremy, how you doing, buddy? Big and strong. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I didn't feel like editing a video tonight, so I thought this would be a better option. Doing a live chat with you guys just for a bit. So this thing is really loose for some reason. I don't know why this thing's loose. I don't know. Anyway, I'll try to get it set up right. Sorry, guys. The mitten state. Which one's that? Which one's the mitten state? I don't know the saying here. All right, so guys, I'm just doing a live Q&A here just to see what you guys are doing and how things are going. Sorry, I'm just messing around with this camera here. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Sorry. Shouldn't be swearing on live. Eh? Michigan. See, this thing just keeps on slanting down like this. I don't know what the hell's going on. This never happened last time. I don't know. This thing's messed up. My live stream. My life. Yeah, I gotta love that autocorrect. I hate that when I'm answering comments in the on YouTube and then I'm getting an autocorrect thing. Okay, here we go. Maybe this will work. I don't know. All right. Cereal's not really much. You can have cereal as a post meal, but you're going to need to eat something real after that. It's not really... Cereal might have some sugar and stuff like that in there, but it doesn't have any protein barely at all. Like there's not really much protein and stuff in there. So I don't get the same type of pump or feel from it. You'd be better off eating something that is more, I don't know, more carb rich, more nourishing, I guess you could say. So a higher calorie meal. You know, there's a different texture to mush, right? Like potatoes and rice and all this kind of stuff. It's got a totally different texture to it. And when you combine that with protein, it feels like muscle almost. But I find cereal is just, I mean, it could be an appetizer if you want. If you just feel like you can't really get anything else down, you can do that. But I wouldn't say that that's the ideal meal after a workout. So yeah, I'd be sticking to the whole protein and carb thing. And you might want to go higher glycemic carb or something if you want. But honestly, I just stick to brown rice most of the time. I think that's fine. Yeah. How you doing there, Jay? Yeah, Jay, you're on the same time I am right now. So you must be around 8:45, I guess, in Oregon there. So nice to see you. Half black Jesus. No, front raises are never necessary, to tell you the truth. At least they weren't for me. I never ever did front raises my whole life, just so you know. It always felt off with me when I did these. It always felt like I was jamming something in the shoulder. Didn't feel like the right movement. Firing the front delt with the arms straight never felt right. Plus I was getting a lot of front delt work from bench press already and from shoulder presses and stuff. It just didn't seem necessary. I find a lot of guys do this kind of stuff because they like to look at themselves in the mirror and it gives them another exercise to do that. I think that's honestly, it seems like that. I really don't think it's really a necessary movement, but you do get some trap work. I'm not, because you know, see when this happens and that happens, there's some trap work in there and there is some delt work, but the big stipulation on this is that if you notice that your shoulders start to get inflamed or you start to get shoulder problems when you're doing other things, cut out anything where you're straightening the arms and just lifting like this. You know, there's a possibility that's just kind of jamming or impinging the bicep tendon in here. So I find that cutting those things out, you might notice instant relief when you're doing your other pressing type movements. So that's a quick tip for you. Okay, Jason Mullen says he feels like he gets a lot of tricep activation during dips. Would you suggest this on arm day, or I've never really seen you do them? I don't mind tricep dips. I don't mind dips. You saw me do them. Jason Mullins, you're guilty, see? You're guilty of not watching my videos again. Hey, the Bolo app is coming, I'm telling you. You guys just cheat the system. You just jump on these freaking live chats, don't support the channel by watching my other videos, and then say, hey, Jason, just answer my questions, you slave, right? So you didn't watch my workout where I actually was doing dips. I'm going to test you on this. What was I doing dips on? I wish I had that Jeopardy clock right now. I'm going to ask you, what was I doing dips on? Do you remember? Do you remember? Because I did do dips one time recently in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I guess, maybe 4 weeks in the videos. I did do dips in one of those. The rings, there. Okay, Philip McCauley, there you go. Hey, from Japan, Chris Whitehead, how you doing, buddy? So yeah, Philip McCauley, okay, at least he's watching the damn videos. Hey, now you probably feel pretty guilty, don't you? So anyway, now that we're through that, now that you've adequately been, you know, chewed out, Yeah, I think that you can do triceps in dips and stuff like that. But if you notice that you have to do hundreds and hundreds of dips in order to get the triceps, you might want to do isolation movements first, so that way you don't have to do quite so many reps when you are dipping, and to make sure that your triceps are hitting failure first, right? Because whatever muscle group hits failure is the one that will be pushed into having to adapt. So do I do tricep? I don't really like dips that much. I like other movements for some reason. I don't hate them. I don't think they're bad. I just don't enjoy them, I guess. You know, so maybe I'm just kind of fussy that way. 1 second here. Okay, Jason Monzi, he saw me as amnesia for some reason. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I like dips. I like dips for a different angle. But I do notice that with dips, I get a lot of front delt work myself. Okay, so that's just my body. I get a lot of front delt work. I do get some chest work on there as well. So it's not like it's a useless movement. It's just that I find that it's not the movement that I feel I need in order to really challenge the muscles and stuff. And I noticed that I can do a lot of dips, right? I can do 30, 40, 50 reps of them. So I find that I want to do heavier movements for my chest workout and stuff. And that's usually what I do for chest is dips. Because if I bend over a bit, like if I bring up my knees and then it makes me tilt over the chest, then I get more chest. If I want to stay more straight up and down, then I'll get more tricep, right? But either way, I find it's really delt heavy for me. Hey, Kenneth CW, how you doing? Yeah, Chris Whitehead, I agree with dips. Okay. Oh, there you go, Philip McCauley. Thanks, man. Yeah, I give people shit. I give people shit so that way they're forced to watch my videos. I got to come up with a different strategy. Hey, Ninja Monkey, how you doing from Australia? Nice. Nice. Okay, so here we go. Any more questions, guys? Yeah. Okay, so Cameron Schul says, do you have any advice for developing your inner or lower pecs? Well, the squeezing movements at the top would be a good idea. You know, so you saw me in the last workout video where I'm doing full range of touch. I'm coming down low with the dumbbells, but I'm coming up and I'm kind of getting that extra little bit here. So I'm not banging the dumbbells together. I hate it when guys do that, but I'm just coming so the shoulders are down and then I bring the dumbbells all the way up so the dumbbells are right above my shoulder. I don't have to bring them in, but I have to bring them above my shoulder. So that will get that last little bit of squeeze. So that way you're making sure that the chest is getting that squeeze. Sometimes with pressing movements, you know, I know I talk about this. A lot of times I focus more on the stretch in the movement. So usually when I'm doing my range of motion, okay, I'll just do it like this, you know. I'm here, and then I come to here, and then I'm back down, you know, because I'm trying to keep the chest in a stretched range, so I get a lot more development in the chest from that. But the thing is that it's not to say that there aren't little places in parts of the other movement. Well, how could I word this? It's not that other ways of doing the movement won't produce results. Let's put it that way. There can be some results from coming up and squeezing and stuff a bit and making sure now the muscles responsible for squeezing all the way in, you know, or the portions of the muscle that are responsible for that, for them to hit failure. If you actually do complete the movement, you will notice that there's a different type of failure or a different type of experience of the movement that may help you fill out that area. It doesn't mean that that's the best way to get the overall shotgun approach to the movement. I hope I'm saying this right. When I'm doing a movement and I'm trying to stay more in the stretch state, I think I get most of the results from that. And from my experience and from my actual training in the gym for a long time, that is what's produced the best results. No matter how much I squeezed and tried to make movements pretty and stuff, I never really felt like I got a lot of results from that. But it can give you some results. That's really my point. It only took me about an hour to get that point out. Sorry about that. So that might be a way that you can actually get that inner chest thing going. It's not like the inner chest is a separate entity, but if you get overall volume in the chest, period, it's going to fill out everywhere, you know? So you want to basically hit the chest from all angles. Decline type movements or dip type movements can help get the pec minor underneath, which pushes the chest out. Right? The pec minor actually brings the shoulder from here and down, right? Does this, that's what the pec minor does. So it's underneath the pec major, which does this, right? So if you get that muscle filled out or bigger, then this one gets pushed out and then it gives that illusion of more fullness as well. So there can be some of those experiences. So yeah, just hit the different angles, right? Just hit the different angles and pay attention to the exercises. When you're doing an exercise, pay attention to what is actually hitting failure. Don't just randomly hit failure and say, oh geez, I hit failure in that set. A lot of times I ask people, I was saying, okay, so what hit failure in that set? And they're like pointing to all sorts of areas they don't really know. So if you're hitting failure everywhere, most likely it's not everywhere. It's just one or two places and you just don't have the awareness yet. So you have to hone that awareness down. Really feel into it. What is really happening? Quinn Miller, Natural Bodybuilding. You know, you build your front delts with. I built my front delts just from shoulder presses and from bench presses. That's it. I don't ever do front raises or any of that. I never did any of those, honestly. Never. Actually, I can say I never did those. Yeah. It never felt right. You know, there'll be certain movements for each person. I'm going to turn the light on in here just so you know. It's getting a little dark now. It's starting to get dark here. It's 8:50 and I got my garage door open here. Okay, let's see. Okay, 1 second. I gotta spilled some water here. Okay. All right. All right, I'm back. Sorry for that interlude. Sorry about this light too. Fluorescent light's probably the worst light you can actually have, but this is the stuff I have in the garage, so here we go. All right. Kenneth CW, I've seen some of your photos from old magazines. Did you know bodybuilders from the golden era? I met Arnold Schwarzenegger. I met Lou Ferrigno. I met Flex Wheeler from a distance, but he didn't really talk to anybody. Mike Ryan, who isn't from the golden era, but he's the guy that runs Gold's Gym. Even now, he personal trains a lot of stars and stuff like that. I met him. He's a nice guy. I trained with Michael Hearn for a few sessions. Him and I got up. I just met him at the gym at 5 in the morning, trained with him. So I met quite a few guys, yeah. Okay, so let me just, I gotta rewind here. Ninja Monkey, what are some significant things happening in your life? Significant thing is I have 2 cats, as you guys know, and they are outdoor cats. We adopted them like that, and we moved into a new neighborhood. And I have a neighbor that's kind of a dick, and he's mad because the cats go on his balcony, and once in a while they'll try to take a nap. And then when he goes to put his dog out for the day, the dog gets mad and chases the cat, so he's really pissed off at us right now. So that's a significant thing going on. that's what's happening. So yeah, some people, they sweat the small stuff sometimes. I find that annoying. So that would be a significant thing, Ninja Monkey, that's going on in my life right now. How is Michael Hearn to train with? Oh, he's strong as hell. That's I'm about 200 pounds right now there, Jay Englert. How was Arnold? Arnold, I actually did a video on that, Kenneth, CW. I did a video on my whole experience of meeting Arnold, how I met Arnold Schwarzenegger. He wasn't very nice, honestly. I didn't really like him too much, to tell you the truth. He's kind of like most of these success guys I've met in my life. I mean, a lot of times, you know, hopefully you guys don't have the same disappointing interaction with me one day when you meet me in person, but, you know, I might be a person that is not always easy to get along with. Like, I'll tell you what I think and I'll be pretty honest with you, but I find that some people, their goals and aspirations don't, let's just say this, they take priority over any other type of interaction that goes on in their life. And that's the problem with the public spectacle, the movie stars and stuff. They basically are great spin doctors in showing you a certain side of themselves for entertainment reasons. It's called branding, right? So movie action star needs to show you that he's tough and that he's this and that he's that and he's successful and all this kind of stuff. And so this image, when this image is believed, then of course the person or the actor isn't really that thing. But when the public believes that, it's easy for them to understand what they're getting when they go to the movies and stuff. So it's only a natural occurrence that when you meet the person in person, when you meet that actor in person, you're going to meet somebody totally different than you expect because you're seeing them in the movies and you see them in interviews when they're promoting their movies. You're seeing a certain persona, but you're not actually seeing them. And I wonder if a lot of them ever know who they really are, if they really ever show who they are to anyone. And unfortunately, a lot of times, the highest pinnacle of success isn't driven by love or happiness. It's usually driven by fear and insecurity and obsession. And that doesn't always make for a beautiful interaction between you and that person, right? People that are fixated on a goal, you're just another speed bump on the way, or another, you know, way of them getting or obtaining something. But a lot of these stars or people in LA that were pursuing stardom, I found they were like this. And that's why I couldn't make the step. Like I met with Ed Connors from Gold's Gym. I actually stayed at Ed Connors' house. Ed Connors is a guy that's been around forever. Like he was the president of Gold's Gym and quite successful. Anyway, I stayed there with my girlfriend at the time for a week. He invited us to stay, and And he took me out to dinner and said, hey, Jason, if you want to move down here, I'll give you a job at one of my gyms and we'll, you know, I think you can make it as a natural bodybuilding fitness model down here. You should really give it a try. But most of the interactions that I had with people down there, I knew right away that it's a kill or be killed type world. It was not a world where I would feel unconditional support from the community, and it was a very easy thing for me to think at the time. Like, I knew that if I became homeless, it was like, that's it. There's nobody going to be helping me out, right? So that wasn't worth the risk for me. I wasn't going to go down there and try to work illegally and then somehow find a way to make it. It just wasn't worth it for me. So people were more important to me, a lot of my friends and family and all this and that kind of support. So that's why I decided not to pursue that whole bodybuilding lifestyle thing down in LA and kind of make a break for it, right? That is, so that's the same with Hollywood. I mean, a lot of people that try to make it in Hollywood, I mean, they have to have an incredible amount of tenacity and everything to do it, but they also have to give up a lot to do it. They have to give up a lot of friendships, family, all this kind of stuff, any sort of support. And yeah, to me, that wasn't where my priorities were at the time, right? So that's why I didn't do it. Okay, let me just rewind here. Philip Macaulay cats are evil, though. No, they're not. They're actually pretty good, but it's funny. How much am I weighing? I'm weighing about 200 pounds. Yeah. Okay, so, okay, I'm not going to say her name because it's a white person can't say that word. Okay, so I don't know why people do this. Make these names on YouTube that are offensive. I don't understand it. But anyway, he goes, he has a question. He's been having knee pain every time he plays sports and trains legs, pain for the last 2 days after. How are you training legs? That's the thing. I want to know, what are you doing for legs? How are you training your legs? What is your injury history with legs? How heavy are you training your legs? You know, these are all factors that will contribute, right? If you punch yourself in the face every day, and then the next day you say, Jason, I have a black eye. Why do I have a black eye? Well, it's pretty easy for me to say, well, it's the punching yourself in the face. So if you're getting knee pain, there are a few things that could be going on. One is you're actually lifting wrong for you. You are lifting wrong for you. That is one very real consideration or possibility. It's not the only one, but it is a possibility. The other one is you might have a muscle knot or spasm or something going on in your knee, so it's not functioning and protecting itself properly. And that could be from some sort of other problem. Maybe you got hit funny in playing sports, or maybe you tweaked your knee somehow and now the muscles are compensating and spasming. So that could also be a reason why you're having knee pain. Now, the third possibility is you actually have a structural problem where there's a ligament or a meniscus or some sort of damage in there that happened from an injury or some sort of interaction, and that may also be causing the knee pain. So it could be three possibilities. So it just depends. But the first thing I would do with self-diagnosis is, you know, assuming that you don't have MRI available or any of this kind of stuff, and you don't think it's something like that, because most likely it's not. Most likely it's not really that structural. I mean, a lot of times doctors can't do anything for you anyway. Even if you have a meniscus tear, they might do something, but it's not really going to make a huge difference. I found a lot of times people get knee surgery, they don't necessarily get any result anyway, unless of course they're reattaching a ligament that's totally torn off. But I would say look at your form, look at what you're doing. How are you squatting? Are you squatting ass to the grass? That's probably killing your knees. You know, that most likely. Are you doing partials? You know, and if you're doing partial reps, but you're the type of person that has the knees come forward really quick, like boom, like this, as you squat, because you stay more straight up and down, maybe a partial isn't necessarily the best thing for you. At that moment, now coming down a little bit deeper is better. So that way it basically, the hamstrings start to take the stress, okay? So, you know, depending on how you're built will depend on what is an easier way to train. This is the irony. Some people, it's easier for them to go a little bit deeper. It's easier on the knees. And then other people, if they go that deep on the knees, it'll kill their knees and kill their hips. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on the structure, right? I had a debate with a guy on the internet today, and he was telling me that, oh, everybody should go to Ask the Grass because we can all take a poop by going to Ask the Grass and all this. And I'm like, for F's sakes, honestly, it pisses me off so much when I see people say this stuff, because it's assuming that everybody is exactly the same, and we're not. We're not all the same. And there's a difference between passive range of motion, which means relaxed muscle state, yoga state, right? That range of motion is different than active range of motion, okay? So passive range of motion is when your muscles are relaxed. Well, obviously when your muscles are relaxed, your body can stretch way more. It's relaxed. That's the whole point of relaxed, right? But when you're putting tension on something, that range of motion will be different. And it doesn't mean that you can't gain in some flexibility there. But once you throw in counterbalancing, like say all I can do with my hip, like say this is my upper body and this is my knee. Say I can lift my knee to here, okay? That's a 90-degree angle. Now say when I'm squatting, I have to bend over to keep from falling over, right? I mean, I have to bend over a bit. Now, when I go 90-degree angle, this is as much as my hip will do. So if I want to come down further, I have to bring my knees way forward, right? I have to bring my knees way forward. And sometimes there's an exponential amount of stress here with my knees forward in order for me to get down to parallel. But is that really necessary? And if it's causing knee pain, do I really want to do it? No, you don't, because you're just not built that way. Your hips don't bend that way. And some people just don't bend the same way as somebody else. And I know this because I've been getting ridiculed for it, but I know 100% I can do the splits. I could go up to everybody else and call them a beta all day and say, hey guys, you can't do the splits. You're such a beta. You're such a piece of crap because you can't do what I do. And that's what I get all day on the internet. People are like, oh, you're not doing what I do, so you're a piece of crap, right? They're judging based on a different body type. So this is the thing you have to honestly look at. You have to honestly look at what is it that you are built like? What is your genetic structure and how should you train to efficiently use it instead of just pounding it to death, pushing into the joints way too much. Sometimes, like I saw a guy squat the other day and he's strong. He could squat 400 for one, which is not super strong, but it's strong when you go ass to the grass. That's strong. But he's wearing knee sleeves like crazy to get that extra bounce on the bottom, and then he just bounces off the knees, bounces off the knees, bounces off the knees. That's all fine, but one day you won't be able to bounce off the knees because the only reason why you're bouncing is because you're actually relaxing the muscles, and guess what? The muscles are what support the joint. They're what protect the joint. So you're relaxing to get that bounce, and then one day something's going to go bang, and that's it. Done. Done. You won't be squatting anymore, and you'll be lucky to be doing it into your 30s, let alone 40s and 50s, like I am, right? So the bottom line is you don't see guys that are 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old that often doing ass to the grass squats, and there is a reason for that. There is a reason, 100%. There's a reason why Olympic lifters' careers don't last that long. There is a reason. You know, I always laugh. There's people on YouTube all the time making fun of guys like Flex Wheeler and stuff like that. And Flex Wheeler might not be the most personable guy in the world, but at the same time, the guy knows about building muscle his way. Okay, sure, he's in the unnatural world, but the bottom line is this guy had insane genetics and shape, and he knew how to really build that muscle on his body. So he moved the way his body should move and kept that tension on those muscles and grew muscle. And he's not an ass to the grass squatter. I don't even know if he does squat, to tell you the truth. I think he uses machines half the time. So it's really about finding that secret to your body, moving to keep that tension on the muscle belly, but as little as possible on the joints, because the joints are already getting a beating. It's not like you can ever take the pressure off of them. They're always going to get some pressure, but you don't want to be using an exponential amount of pressure on the joint in comparison to the muscle belly, right? Hey, and if you guys want to know, this video is sponsored by Patreon, the people on Patreon, that is. I've got 5 or 6 people on there. A few of them contribute $1 a month, and 1 or 2 of them actually contribute $20 a month. So that really helps this channel out. So keep these people in your prayers at night, people. They're helping bring you this free information. So if you guys want to support me on Patreon, that'd be great. So, okay, know any quick canker sores? You know what? I don't know offhand, Philip. Sorry about that. Canker sore. I know I could look it up, but yeah, Chris White, I'm like the Socrates of iron. You know what? Pain teaches a lot, Chris. You know, every one of you guys, I don't know how old most of you are, but some of you grew up in the 80s, some of you grew up in the 90s, some of you grew up probably in 2000, you know. But the bottom line is that pain is such a powerful teacher. And when you fall down on your bicycle, say you take a big jump, and you know, do it end over end, like I've flipped bikes and stuff, broken arms and everything, and, you know, just killed myself when I was a kid, right? Skateboarding down a dirt hill, I broke my arm and stuff, just dumb stuff. But I learned, oh, that's how this works. My body doesn't bend that way, or it doesn't move this way. So it's interesting once you start to actually have this experiment with yourself, instead of looking at what everybody else is saying. You know, Jason, you should be Evel Knievel. You should go over 25 cars. I'm like, well, last time I broke every bone in my body and almost died. It's like, no, but you should do it. I'm like, no, you're an idiot. I'm not doing that. That's what almost happened. So yeah, responding to the stimulus really does teach you, but you have to be smart enough to respond to it. Okay, 1 second here. On rack pulls above the knee. Kenneth CW, I love rack pulls above the knee. The reason why you don't see me do rack pulls above the knee is because I do Romanian deadlifts, right? And Romanian deadlifts are different. I'm not saying they're not exactly the same, but it is a similar sort of pattern, deadlifting in just 2 different ways. And at the same time, I notice if I deadlift too hard, if I really push that lower back too hard, then I cannot squat as much because my lower back is too burned out. So if my lower back's too burned out, I can't squat the same amount of weight, or I can't put a lot of weight on my back. So that's why I always kind of stay away from doing too much heavy deadlifts type stuff, because then I don't have the lower back strength or recovery left in order to put that into my leg training. So that's why you don't see me do a lot of heavy stuff, but that's why I'm doing a lot of heavy shrugs right now. I'm just starting to do that. And that's why I'm doing a lot of heavy bent over rows as well, because I do get a lot of lower back work there and stuff too. But I think heavy rack pulls are awesome. Okay, so basically Mike Bromeo saying back in the day when golden ears, pro hormones, and roids were readily available in GNC, being that I know older crowd, it's hard to believe that you're working out in your heyday. You are not. Okay, first of all, those things, Mike, were banned in natural bodybuilding, even though they were available in the store only in the States, not in Canada. I am in Canada. We have much stricter regulations. Now, there were vitamin stores that were, they called it gray area supplements, and they were selling DHEAs and androstenedions and stuff, but this stuff was totally banned in natural bodybuilding. And I knew that it was hormonal, and I didn't want to mess with my hormones, because I knew that, I worked in the bars and stuff. I saw what happened to these guys. They'd go on stuff, and their physique would look great for about 2 months, and then they stop, and then their physique would just crash. That was like a nightmare. That was like a nightmare to me. I thought, that is just stupid. Why would anybody mess with their hormonal system to get a quick result and then lose it? That was the worst thing ever. So I didn't want to go in that direction. So just so you know, I never did pro hormones. I never did any of that stuff. Yeah, the thing is, Mike Bromeo, but that was a pro hormones. Like I said, that stuff was it was illegal in Canada. There were stores and stuff that got shut down for selling that kind of stuff. It was only in the States that you saw androstenedione and certain stuff that was basically on the shelves in drinks, sports drinks and all this kind of stuff. But that stuff was totally illegal in Canada. And it was totally banned in the WNBF and in all natural bodybuilding. That was polygraph and urine tested. So, hey there, Jim Dano. Nice to see you, buddy. So, Jay Angler, can I give you a most muscular pose? Here we go. Yeah, I just did some legs. It's amazing, you know, when you guys do legs and then you measure your arms around, you'll notice that you'll actually lose the pump. Like say you do leg training and then you do a quick set or two of arms, you'll notice that the blood is still in your legs. It's actually still, yeah, I know, totally weak, Jay. But the blood is still in your legs. So I noticed that after I get a pump when I say train arms just by themselves, like, you know, my arms are over 18 at that point. But then when I actually trained legs first and then went to do biceps and stuff, and then I measured, they were like a quarter to half an inch smaller doing that, right? So it's kind of funny. This stuff kind of shows you where the blood flows in the body and how it works. Yeah. Hey, Jay Angler, you could see me training. I've got a bunch of workout vlogs down below and day in the life and stuff. And I do a lot of poses with my legs there and stuff, so. Larry Abraham or whatever, Abdul, cardio and leg day, would you do them on the same day? Yeah, you could. I would do the cardio after legs though. I would do the heavy weight training so you have that energy to really stimulate the muscle and then do the cardio after. Yeah. How you doing there at Heavy Lifts, bro? How are you? How you doing there, mate? Feed, kill, repeat. Good to see you. Ninja Monkey, opinions on veganism. I think it's the same thing with training, okay? It's the same thing I talk about with training. It's all about the individual need. You know, everybody talks about this morality, that morality, this bullshit. I mean, I wouldn't walk out my door if I basically lived according to the way some of these people talk. They're like, oh, you kill something if you eat it. You know, when I step out my door, I kill ants. You know, it's like things die all the time. When I breathe, there are millions of microorganisms that die every day. And, you know, the thing is that there is no avoiding death. Sometimes people think that there's a way of avoiding this. You won't avoid death. We're all going to die one day. It's just the way it's going to happen. And once you embrace this cycle of life, then it's not quite so painful. But a lot of times people are avoiding their own death. So then they look everywhere else and say, oh, yeah, that shouldn't die, that shouldn't die, that shouldn't die. And then they, you know, impose this. Now, if you take all this garbage, this emotional garbage away from it and say what's practical, what works, then I would say it just depends on the person. It depends on your genetics. It depends on what you find works with your body. And you could say that somebody's body is flawed and that's why they need to eat meat. I don't know, whatever you want to come up with. But the bottom line is their body flawed so that they have to eat meat? I don't know. I think it just depends on where your body is at, where the vibration is at. There are lots of religions that talk about veganism and saying being a vegetarian is better in this way and that, whatever. But the fact is that some people, if they go vegetarian for a period of time and they don't really pay attention to their diet really strongly, they will get deficiencies and have problems. And this is a fact. So basically, if you are not going to pay attention to what your body needs and then come up with some sort of fanatical idea of what it should be doing instead of what it is responding to, you're going to have a recipe for disaster. You're going to be out of balance or out of harmony with this body. Now, you guys know I'm a meditation teacher and stuff. Can you change the body so much into light? Can light happen? Can there be this awakening on the physical level that somehow allows you to live off the light of the sun? There are sages out there that have said they could do this. It's called soma. It's called, there's a mantra, it goes Hreem, Bam, Sam, Pam, Pam, Sam, Kasham, and then they do the Kachuri Mudra and all this, and then they basically get bliss through the body. They can eat the sunlight from the sun. But if you try to not eat anymore before you can do that, then you're going to be in for starvation. That's what's going to happen. So I find that people mix up mysticism with cultural ideals and religion and all this, and it just gets really messy. So I'm saying, what is your body responding to? How does it respond? Then go with that. I'm open to vegetarianism working for somebody. If it works, then do that. But don't do it just because you have to. You can try it, and if it's starting to work, then that's okay. But really respond, really say, okay, is my body fine or not? But if you're developing deficiencies and all these problems, then you need to basically change your tact, right? Kenneth CW, did you party a lot when you were younger? No, I never did, Kenneth. I wasn't into partying. I thought it was dumb. Okay, Mike Bromeo, okay, much respect for the answer. I just know back in the day in the States, after talking with the older crowd, you didn't classify it as taken from once, you classified it as supplements. Mike Bromeo, that's not in the, I'm just gonna say this one more time, buddy. That's not in the natural bodybuilding circles, okay? In the WMBF, the ABA, the ANBC, all these natural body, real drug-free bodybuilding, right from the start, they had a category called pro-hormones illegal. You get banned immediately if this stuff was found in your urine, or banned immediately if you failed the polygraph test in taking this stuff, okay? So that stuff was banned right from the get-go. There was no mystery about it. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, Cosmic Shocker. It was actually Chris Whitehead. It's actually Cosmic Shakti. Cosmic Shakti, baby. But Cosmic Shocker is pretty funny. Chris Whitehead is Cosmic Shakti. Shakti is the spiritual energy. It's called the feminine, which threads through all things. The masculine is the idea or the blueprint, you could say. Or it could be like an overhead projector. That's actually the masculine aspect. And then the Shakti is the light that flows through it to create the picture on the wall. Yeah. A heavy lifts bro. My most severe injury from heavy training was herniated disc when I was 18 years old. Actually, right before karate class, I remember one day. Yeah, doing deadlifts around at my back because nobody could teach me otherwise. I had to learn everything the hard way, and then I popped something in my back, and then that ended my martial arts career because I was usually going to the gym, weight training, then going to martial arts and doing kicks and punches and all this. And yeah, I wasn't lifting my left leg for a year or so properly. It was just messed right up. Yeah. Half Black Jesus, does the hammer strength machine have any application if one is already doing incline movements with dumbbells or barbells? I think so, because the thing is with the hammer strength, it's on an angle, so the tension continues on the chest more in an arcing type motion than, say, free weights, especially with barbell. Where barbell, most of the tension on the chest will be down here, but then as you come up, because the arms don't come inwards, the tension doesn't continue on the chest. It transfers then more to the shoulders and to the tricep, which is why you see me when I'm doing my inclines, I'm not coming all the way up. The reason why is because when I come all the way up, then I find that my delts and my triceps start to take all the stress, and then the stress actually leaves the chest. So hammer strength does have some application there for sure. It keeps the tension more on the chest. Okay, who do I think is the best natural bodybuilder of all time? Actually, Kai Green was one of the best natural bodybuilders of all time. That's why he's doing so well now in the IFBB. He was, before he went to the dark side, you could say, he was a natural bodybuilder that was 5'8" and 220 on stage. He was unbelievable. He looked unbelievable. He won the WNBF Natural Universe every year for several years. I think it was 4 or 5 years. And he couldn't make a living at it, so he made the decision to go further, because this is the problem. Natural bodybuilding just never had the support. There was never any support money-wise for natural bodybuilders. And the WNBF at that time, they have new ownership now, but at that time made it even worse, because they were saying, you're exclusive, you're with us, and we don't want you to be with anybody else. We don't want you to compete anywhere else. We don't want you to, you know, get your name out there any other way. Only pose in our magazines, all this kind of stuff. And the magazines were so small and insignificant. They did not have a lot of circulation and stuff. So exposure is everything. When you get a lot of exposure, everybody knows who you are. That's when endorsement contracts can come and all that kind of stuff. But the natural bodybuilding pros in the WNBF really had very little exposure, so they couldn't market themselves or make any living from that, right? So I was kind of a rogue. I said, screw it, I'll compete in the natural universe, compete in this and that, get in the magazines and stuff. But I said, I'm not signing any exclusive bullshit. I just went wherever I wanted. I said, I don't give a shit. You're not paying me any money. So if you're not paying me a regular paycheck, then you can kiss my ass, right? So, yeah. Okay, so, okay, Larry Abrams say he purchased a 2-day split C program 2 weeks ago, and on the third and fourth, I have leg press, calf raise, and leg press. Okay, so what you can do to replace that if you want, I don't know what you do have access to, Larry. Do you have access to any type of machine type of movement for the legs that doesn't include lower back? If you do, then use that. That would be something that you could do. And now, if you don't have that, then you could just do walking lunges or something. Yeah, did you just see the cat? Did you just see the cat come in here? He's right here. It's like, yeah, he's such a shit. It's only wherever I am. That's where the cat wants to be. Was Steve Reeves really natural? I think he probably was. He wasn't that massive, to tell you the truth. I think he had 18-inch arms and stuff. My arms are 18. Like, he wasn't absurdly big, and he was taller than me. So he just had a really nice V-taper and stuff. So I really don't think he was an unnatural guy. He had a look that it was very achievable as natural. Like, I had one guy just trolling me just yesterday. Actually, it was just today. And he was saying, oh yeah, you're too big to be natural, this kind of stuff. I'm like, come on. Like, what are you basing this shit on? Like, a guy that is at the elite level at 5 foot, get off the camera there, cat. A guy that's at an elite level at 5'8" in the IFBB, okay? That guy's 250, 240 on stage. You know, me on stage, I'd be about 190. Right? So how can you say that I'm too big to be natural? Like, you know, they don't understand. They just see visuals in a video or something, but they don't really understand how big these guys are that are in the unnatural realm, right? Scott Brick, I wouldn't recommend the Smith machine lying on the floor and using it as a leg press because your feet will slip off those dials pretty quick, and it could be pretty dangerous there, Scott. So, yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend that. But, you know, Smith machine is another thing you could do. You could do Smith machine one-legged squats. That would work too, right? What about Bill Pearl? I don't know. I don't know Bill Pearl. I know who he is, but I don't know him enough. I really don't, so I don't want to comment. I think it's very possible, though. I think it's very possible, but I don't know 100%. Mate, kill, feed, repeat, or whatever. Mate, feed, kill, repeat. Sorry, man, I keep messing your name up because it's got so many different things in there. You know, I wish you guys had simple names like Bob or something. But anyway, Lee Priest, before he went pro, was he natural? I know guys that made it to the Canadian national level and won their division as natural bodybuilders. They did. And then they made the decision. I would say, like, I disagree with the whole drug lifestyle and all that crap, right? And I don't believe in that whole thing. But if somebody was going to make that decision, I think that you should at least win your division or get to an elite level nationally before you even make the decision that it's a possibility to be a good pro. Because what's the point of becoming a pro if you can't win anything as a pro or make a living at it, like, and risk your health? Like, that would just be stupid. So do I think that it's possible Lee Priest made it? Maybe it's possible that he won his nationals or got his pro card natural. I don't know. But he does seem to be a genetic freak. And I do believe him when he says that he's not as unnatural as people think. Yeah. Chris Whitehead, opinion on whole milk. I drink whole milk, but organic whole milk. So make sure you drink organic if you're going to do it. Grass-fed organic would be the best. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't drink whole milk though as like glass after glass. I just use it in my coffee and stuff. So if you're using it as a weight gainer type of thing, you'll probably get fat doing it, I think. All that fat and stuff in there, because there's quite a bit of fat in there. A glass here and there though, it probably won't be a problem. But it just depends what you're doing with your diet, depends on your metabolism, depends on that kind of stuff, right? Jason Butch Olds, sorry, the writing is really small on the screen. Is it okay to smoke weed if he's trying to build muscle? I would say no. I would say it's dumb. I've seen guys do it. I've seen guys do it quite a bit. And usually they have to offset that habit with another habit, which is another type of drug in order to gain muscle. And I've seen guys, okay, be so disconnected from their bodies when they're doing this that they start tearing muscles off the bone. Hamstrings all the time. Shoulder muscles, like muscles in their shoulder and biceps and stuff, because they're just kind of relaxed and just they're not quite with it. So I'm talking about a chronic thing that they're doing. So I'm not saying, is it like, I don't know, it depends what you mean. Is it okay? Are you talking about morally or not? I mean, you can live your life whatever way as long as you're not hurting anybody, but at the same time, I don't think it's a way of growing awareness. That's for sure. It's not a way of becoming more aware of your body. If something can be used as a painkiller, you have to ask yourself, if something can be used as a painkiller, that means it's shutting down awareness of something. So if it's shutting down awareness of something, that's not something you want when you're partaking into something where you have to be totally on point to make sure you don't hurt yourself. Yeah, I know you want to see. He wants to go down in the basement. There's a basement. There's a crawl space under there. The cat wants to go in there. That's why he's meowing in the background. He likes to go check it out. It's like he's a private investigator cat. Creatine or glutamine? Both. Why not? Ed Williamson, when does protein synthesis actually start after a workout is over? You know, I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know if it's really important to know. If you just eat, then let life take care of itself. It just seems to happen, doesn't it? But I don't know the exact numbers. It's not like my body at one time came to me. It's not like my biceps came to me in a dream and said, Jason, protein synthesis happened today, 15 minutes after your bicep workout. So I don't really know. Mate, feed, kill, repeat. I have to disagree with you. It cannot help with focus. It will not help with focus. Relaxing, yes, but so will crack. I mean, I don't agree with that either, to tell you the truth. It will not help you when it comes down to actual focus, not real focus, not intense focus right here. It's not. It's actually the opposite of focus, to tell you the truth. Yeah. But, you know, whatever. I'm not judging you or anything. You can do whatever you want. Go in peace, my friend. So I don't care what you do as long as you take care of yourself and you don't fuck yourself up. What do I think of the supplement industry? Is it full of BS? No, it's not full of BS. I mean, the thing is, people think that as soon as somebody makes a profit that it has to be bullshit. Although there are bullshitters out there that try to make a profit, it doesn't mean that there aren't supplements that work. Like if you drink branched chain amino acids, if you're aware of your body, like when I drink branched chain amino acids, I notice a different type of energy when I go into the gym immediately, and it is different than caffeine type of energy. Totally different. And I drink a lot of coffee, so I know the difference. And although I try to drink this stuff that doesn't really have much caffeine in it, but the bottom line is that you know that there is some real good effects from some of the supplements. So I would say it's not bullshit. Like creatine actually works. Creatine phosphate does work. Yeah, Chris Whitehead. Yeah, that's right. Caffeine can hurt your pump for sure. If you take carbs and some arginine BCAAs, yeah, that's good. What about a Bang energy drink taking every day? Okay, the reason why I don't like some of the energy drinks though is because they have synthetic caffeine in there, and that can cause some problems. I think it's not very good for you. Okay, so Patrick L saying, what is normal versus bad back pain, a muscle versus joint after Romanian deadlifts? I arch my back and only go until my pelvis stops tilting and the lumbar wants to tilt, but I fear I'm doing something wrong. So, okay, so if you're arching, keeping your back like this, arched, not rounded at all, okay? But sometimes there's a tendency in a Romanian deadlift for people to want to go lower and lower because they think somehow going lower is better. I've noticed that when you go too low, it's almost like it over stresses the lower back in comparison to the hamstrings. And although you can get some stress, but if once the pelvis is stretched, then there's no point in going over more. And the bottom line is that if you're noticing that there's an ache in the lower back, like a toothache type of pain in the lower back for days after, that usually appears about 2-3 days after, not just the next day, but like a couple days, it gets worse. And it's not necessarily a muscle thing. Like muscle's kind of like there's a tender soreness in there. Maybe a weakness, maybe it's like, oh my God, I don't want to bend over to do something. That's different than the radiating aching pain, even when you're not even moving or doing anything. That would be more ligament and stuff. So that means you might be rounding your back or going too heavy or whatever, right? Because here's the other thing. I found that some movements are actually very good for you, but they're not good for you in certain rep ranges. So if you go too heavy, then they become a problem. Leg extensions can be one of these movements. Skull crushers can be one of these movements. So you want to make sure that when you are doing something that you are not overdoing it, basically, because you're putting stress on one joint. Sometimes that type of movement, just because the nature of that movement, it just doesn't translate well to super heavy weight. It's just there's too much stress in the joint. So sometimes you need to change the rep range too. Chris Whitehead. Chris, just so you know, if I ever do compete, I'm not competing in a frickin' Masters division, just so you know. I mean, I'd be competing in the open division and winning that. I wouldn't be competing in any sort of... I would never compete in Masters. I mean, the problem is bodybuilding and locally, the thing is there's not as much people competing and stuff anyway, so you're up there on stage with 2 people or something, it just seems stupid. I would do both at the same time, Murphy. You're saying getting lean, should you get lean before gaining muscle or both at the same time? I would do both at the same time, because when you're gaining muscle, you're naturally going to be getting a little bit leaner. Assuming your diet is not horrible, well, that is, and you're not drinking beer all the time and doing that kind of stuff, right? But Larry's saying he does snatch grip deadlifts for his back religiously, and I've seen great results from them. I don't really know what a snatch grip deadlift is, what the difference is between that and normal deadlift, but I'm assuming it's the grip, but maybe you're saying really wide or something. I don't think it's going to mess your back up as long as you're noticing if you're using your back properly or not. If you're getting real bad back pains and stuff like that, then yeah, that would that would mess your back up. But if you're not going too extreme in the weight and you're paying attention, the deadlift is not a bad movement by nature. It's just that it's an abused movement. Most people abuse the movement. Okay, so here's the real discussion to get into here, and this is going to be something significant for you guys to listen to. The thing is with deadlift is that most people abuse the deadlift, and then the deadlift abuses them back. And what I mean by this is that they will strain through reps that they should not strain through, because proper form is what failure is in the deadlift, right? So if you can't maintain this arch in the back, or if structurally lifting from the ground you can't do this, then you should be doing a rack pull instead. You shouldn't be lifting from the ground. It just depends on your dimensions and how you're built. But what happens is, because people have this obsession with showing off and showing everybody how much weight they can lift, because the deadlift is one of those movements that it's not necessarily as much about strength as it is about joint integrity. And some people have a lot more ligaments and tendons and a better, let's just say, structure. Like things don't snap quite as easily, and they could just strain the movement up. But it doesn't mean they're really much stronger than another person that can't lift the same weight, because sometimes a person can't lift the weight just because their back will break. It's not because the muscles can't do it. Like I know I could lift super heavyweight deadlifting, but my back would pay for it, so I don't want to do it, right? It's not about strength sometimes. Sometimes it's about, is it smart to use your body in that way? And most people, what they do is they push the deadlift way too far and through way too many reps in the wrong way, because they're obsessed with lifting that weight and they don't pay attention to the body and they snap something. So that's usually how deadlift kills people. It's not because deadlift is really bad. Yeah, no doubt. The thing is 650 deadlift, Chris Whitehead, that's right, 650 deadlift. You'd be absolutely insane to do a 650 deadlift every week. I mean, your body would absolutely totally be traumatized and torn to bits doing that. So yeah, you want to use that strength and rep out with lighter weight, and that would actually give you a lot more muscular results and preserve the joints, right? So you go heavy once in a while, but you don't need to do this all the time. If you do it too much, you actually kill yourself, especially with lower back. Especially with the lower back. The lower back does not recover at the same rate that other muscle groups do. Stretch to 2240, if you're concerned only about bodybuilding, then are deadlifts necessary? No, they're not. They're not necessary at all, actually. Deadlifts are not necessary. 99% of my bodybuilding career, I did not deadlift. I did squats and I did bent over rows, and I might have done Romanian deadlifts with lighter weight, but I never powerlifting deadlifted. Never. Only back in 2002 or something, I started doing some of that and just experimenting with it just as you know, a hobby or an experiment, really. But I found it was not necessary at all. If anything, it became more of a liability because I found my body didn't want to bend that way. And when I was lifting 455 for reps, I found that my lower back was just taking a beating from that. And was I getting enough results to justify the beating? And then when I go to do a leg workout, I'm not having the same type of result from my leg workout because now my lower back's fatigued and everything. So I found it wasn't actually necessary. Rob asks, do I do cardio? Nope, I don't do cardio. Not that it's bad or anything. I mean, I would do, if I had a bike or something like that, I'd be going for a bike ride. Because you guys know I don't own that blue bike, right? You know that bike's not mine. But if it was mine, I would ride it around the neighborhood. I don't know if you could classify that as cardio, but I would ride it around. I do like that. I like easy cardio. That blood flow stuff really does help with bodybuilding. But too intense, I find it just burns me out. Yeah. The blue bike video. That's right, Chris. Yeah, you know. So, but that's not my bike. I told you guys, it's not my bike. Yeah, Patrick L., that's the thing with Romanian deadlifts. You're right. I tried, he says after he did Romanian deadlifts, he tried to go back to regular and it just felt wrong, like it was going to break in half or something. That's the thing. The nice part is once you start getting yourself out of the general consciousness of stupidity of people in lifting weights and stuff, and then you start to say, okay, what is the angles of attack in my body? What angles work the best for me? You will notice that you will find that efficient torque curve very effectively. You'll be able to really find like, okay, this is the natural way my body moves. And it looks different than say somebody else, but it is producing a much better result with way less pain and way less suffering. And the thing is with, like say with bench press, say I lay on the bench, okay, because this is the problem with deadlift. This is the problem with deadlift. Say I lay on the bench and somebody says, Jason, the bar has to come up 4 feet above your arms because the guy that's telling me this has 4 foot long arms. And he's saying it has to come 4 feet all the way up. Otherwise, you're not properly doing your bench. So somehow I have to do a bench press and then I have to do an ab curl in order to get the bar all the way up, right, where this person wants me to do it, and then come back down and then, you know, bring the bar back down. Well, we know that that would be stupid because that's not really a bench press. It's not in relationship to our own body. We're saying a bar should come to a certain level or not. So this is kind of the stupid thing that's happening with deadlifts. People are saying, oh, the bar is at a certain level, so that's where it should go, and then the bar has to come up, but the bar has to come down to a certain level. And that will mean much different things depending on a person's joint ratios. One person, it means they have to bend right in half, right? Or more. And then another person, they bend like this and the bar comes off the floor, or they can reach the floor with the deadlift. So this is the reason why it's not really a good way of measuring the intensity of a movement, because one person is going to be way more intense on their lower back than another person. Jason Butch Olds, you can do what you want. He's asking about smoking weed again. I would seriously consider not doing it at all, to tell you the truth. I would say, why can't you become independent of that stuff? Like, what is it about life that you can't cope with that you need to do that? Learn how to meditate or something. Honestly, I really would recommend that rather than depending on a substance to get you through life. I mean, we're not talking about food here. We're talking about you trying to change your mental state because you can't cope with something. And I think it would be better to be independent. I'm not saying that you have to. You can do whatever you want. But, I mean, I think it's better to be independent of any substance rather than be dependent on something. Yeah, Simon 12332. I found what works for me there, Simon. So pretty much 30 years, I'm good. I mean, I can deadlift. I can deadlift if I want. I can deadlift. I can do rack pull if I want, or whatever. I just find that I don't need to conform. You know, see. So people saying deadlifting that works for everybody, that means that you're saying I need to conform. I don't need to conform to shit. I don't need to do anything anybody else is doing. I just need to do what's working for me. And that's exactly what I'm recommending you guys do, right? You don't have to conform. I don't know why these people out there think that you have to conform and do things that other people are doing. it's nice to take advice here and there. It's nice to basically be open to different ways of doing things. But in the end, it's my body and I can do what the fuck I want with it, right? I don't need to deadlift from the floor because somebody says that's what you're supposed to do. I don't need to squat ass to the grass, you know? And this is the thing. People don't have any understanding that there is a certain flavor that your body has that you must listen to. And if you don't, you will pay the price for it, guaranteed. I know lots of guys that mess their back up with deadlifts because they said, no, I need to lift that damn weight from the floor, and I need to do my sets of 4, and I need to do this every week, all this kind of stuff, you know. And I'm not trying to beat on you there, Simon, because I know you're a nice guy and everything. But at the same time, I don't need to deadlift. When I deadlift, I have to bend over like this, seriously, from the floor. It's like I have to bend over, and then this really resonated really strongly with me. I actually watched Ronnie Coleman, okay? I watched him deadlift, and he has some pretty long arms on him, right? Compared to me. I've got short Tyrannosaurus arms, right? So I'm not making fun of him. If anything, I'm making fun of myself more than him. But what happened, I noticed that he would bend over like this, and then he was actually already gripping onto that weight. So he was basically almost upright by the time he deadlifted. Now, that's like a rack pull for me. So you see, his full deadlift is like a rack pull for me. So I could rack pull and I get the same type of stimulus and same thing. It's just because my arm length is much different and my femur length in proportion to my upper body is different. So these proportions are lost on the simple thinkers of the world. The simple thinkers are not thinking, they're just coming up with naive schemes of how everybody should lift, but they have no understanding of what's really going on. But Ed Cohn's a monster either, Stuart. The thing is that I don't know what your point is there, Stuart. Can you come up with your point? Are you trying to be a smartass? What are you saying there, buddy? Kevin Cortez, do you think painkillers negatively affect muscle growth? I would say painkillers would be not a good thing to do and train. Training with painkillers is going to be a recipe for disaster. Okay, good, Stuart Crook. See, I knew you're a nice guy. I knew you weren't trolling me. I just wanted to find. See, that's one thing I hate about this whole texting thing is because it's so hard for me to know exactly what you guys are saying, and I know you guys don't want to type too long of a thing there. So, yeah. Jason Butch Olds, I know you might. Okay, so you're saying you smoke marijuana for medical reasons. I understand there are certain medical reasons that you need to use medicine, but ideally, you don't want to stay on medicine forever. Medicine is supposed to be a temporary thing, right? Medicine isn't supposed to be a permanent fix. Ideally, you want to get to the root problem or the root symptom or the root situation and heal that, so that way you don't need to use the medicine anymore. Medicine is always meant to be impermanent. It's meant to be temporary, right? So that's all I'm saying. But if you have a certain situation that's specific for you, that you have, whatever, do what you want. I'm just saying it's not a great mix for training, that's all. Jeffrey Smith, good evening, Jason. Are you planning on competing? Why are you asking? You want to sponsor me? You want to pay me $5 million a month or something there, Jeffrey Smith? Hey? You got some cash? Hey? I'm waiting for your response there, Jeffrey. Jeffrey wants to be my next Patreon sponsor. Is that what you want to be? So I compete? Yeah. Back exercise I've most benefited from. I would say it would be the pull-up. There's two exercises. There's two exercises, the bent over row, and I'd say the bent over dumbbell row is the best one because it really helps you retract the spine. Like when you're holding onto a bar, it's almost like you can pull, but sometimes you don't get this movement as much. But when you have dumbbells and they're two separate things, then you can slide that up and down the legs and you get this retraction thing going. And that really helps work the overall back. I find that's the best movement. I think it is actually the best movement for hitting the back and the lats and the thickness and everything. Overall, I think it's the best movement. Now, that said, deadlifts can be great and rack pulls and all this, okay? But I'm just saying, I haven't done those, so this is what I'd say is the best movement for me. Stuart Crook, I think the chest supported rows are great. And every single one of them is different, right? Because some of them are on different angles and stuff. I think they're great because sometimes you do have lower back burnout. Sometimes you did heavy squats the day before, you did deadlifts or rack pulls or whatever, and you want to give your lower back a break, but you still want to get that upper back in. So I think it's really necessary to have a good machine pull once in a while. And I do some of these rows at Murph's. Murph's doesn't have a lot of machine row type stuff that has chest supported. That's the only thing I would say is lacking in that gym. Everything else is pretty awesome. I mean, there's so much other great stuff in there, so I really like the gym. But I do miss some of the chest supported type stuff that I used to do for my workouts once in a while. I do miss that, so. Okay, one tail man. Is it necessary to do rack pulls for back thickness? I don't know. Do you think that my back is thick? You know, I'm not saying you think it is or not. It might not be thick to you because it's all about what you're comparing it to. But if you think my back is thick, I did not get a thick back from rack pulls, just so you know. I did bent over rows, and I did pull-ups and pull-downs, and I did seated rows, and I did bent over dumbbell rows, and that's about it, and some Romanian deadlifts, right? So are they necessary? I guess it's debatable. Can they help? Oh, no, I think they can. But depends on how heavy you're going, and it depends on how you recover and everything. Depends on what kind of split program you're on. But if you really kill a body part, it takes at least a day to recover, possibly 3 or 4 days. And I noticed that lower back, if the lower back is really fatigued, if you notice the lower back is super fatigued, it could take you 3 or 4 days to really recover from it, right? Chris Whitehead, astral projection. So people are asking me about this astral. It's not astro, it's astral, just so you know. It's astral projection. Is it possible? Yes, it is. It's not the goal of spiritual work. It's not the goal of spiritual work, just so you know. That's not really the goal. So sometimes people come to me as a meditation teacher and like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? How can I, you know, do the whole psychic thing and everything? These are things that can happen. They're like spiritual experiences that can happen once you start letting go of what you think. That's why I always pound people for their point of view. I always pound the shit out of them about it, right? The reason why I pound them to death is because point of view is what causes so much suffering. When somebody holds on to a point of view, like for instance, when I'm negotiating with my neighbor across the street, doesn't matter what I said, he wants to hold on to his point of view where Jason just fixed the problem, but I don't want to have any part of it and I want you to do it my way, although I don't have the way for you. Just do it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's work together. Let's kind of make this organic. Let's talk about it, whatever. No, didn't want that. See, people that live like that, it's only a matter of time before their body follows. And as they say in the East, I can't remember which whether it's Confucius or who it was, but you know, a tree that bends in the wind doesn't break, right? This is the thing with point of view. When your mind is pliable, when you're more open, what will happen is that you will physically suffer less, you'll emotionally suffer less, and you'll mentally suffer less. So yeah, we become strong. Like the ocean, you know, the ocean can break rocks, you know, over time, right? The ocean is so strong, but the ocean is also pliable, right? So when you have this type of power, you become like water and wind. So you can lift and be strong in that moment, but then you can let go of that identification in that moment and then open up to the space. So it's a balance of yin and yang. When you're open and relaxed, then you have nourishment and now you're rejuvenated so that now you have the power to be like a snake again, like that streamline. Like water gushing through a hose has more pressure, right? So you can create that pressure from contraction of the mind and then letting go of the mind, then contraction. You see? So rewind the video and you'll see all of my my responses to that stuff, okay, about weed and everything, okay? But anyway, I don't use that stuff, just so you know. So the bottom line is that when you gain this mastery of yourself, then you will have a much more dramatic effect in your life and an experience of it, and it continues. This evolution continues. But astral projection is a certain type of phenomenon that can happen when you let go of certain parts of your identification with your body and you. But it's not the goal. Let's just put it this way. It's just it's like something that can happen or not, but it's not a goal or something, okay? It's not like, oh yeah, I bench press 300 pounds. It's the same kind of milestone of some sort. It's not. It's just almost like, it can also be a problem, to tell you the truth. People that are not grounded in their body sometimes will have a tendency to astral project because they're not grounded in their body, and then their bodies are messes. We all know of the psychics that are out there that are full of physical symptoms. They got like all these different types of immune system disorders and problems, and they're smoking like crazy and everything. It's like they've got all this problems going on with the body because they're not connected to their body properly. It's almost like one area of their system got blown out, so they have a vision of something, but their other parts of their system are totally broken, right? So it's not very holistic. Actually, Larry, I wrote a book called Awakening with Aratima. You can get it at my other website called jasongallant.ca. And you can read about what I did when I dislocated my shoulder and I started seeing an energetic healer named Aratima, who is my partner now. But she, you know, introduced me to a whole different world. And that's what my life was totally changed after I met her anyway. And a lot of really interesting, strange psychedelic type experiences happened from that. And yeah, I went to some shamanic ceremonies and there's like ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff I went to, which, you know, can be classified as a psychedelic, but they're not really. It's like it is something that they use in South America to get people off of drug addiction and to detox the body. So my brother said, hey, Jason, you remember you had that food poisoning. This might help kick that parasite out of your system. Why don't you try this out? And I'm like, okay, yeah, why not? And of course, I did have a vision of a parasite, and I puked like crazy and suffered like hell that whole night. And yeah, my body felt a lot better after. So yeah, ayahuasca is one of those things. It's a totally different thing than acid. It's not acid. It's not these things. Although people will compare it, it's one of those things that has a holistic thing that actually heals your body, and it's not something that is addictive in any way. It's something that actually cures addiction. So it's totally different. So anyway. Much different approach. I don't believe in drugs of any kind, but this is something that is different. It was a plant medicine that actually heals your body. So anyway, I'm not going to get into it, but there's some stuff like that I talk about in the book that was one small chapter of my investigation into this spiritual thing and what is all that stuff about, right? Okay, how did I fix my shoulder after dislocating it in hockey and stuff? I never did. I never did do surgery. I got recommended. I did a consult. I did an MRI. They said I have a tear on the top, tear on the bottom. The guy said, holy shit, you actually train with the shoulder? He said, how do you train with the shoulder? It doesn't make sense. He couldn't actually understand it. He was like, really, you can lift weights with the shoulder? There's no way you can do it. So that's how extreme it is. That's why my bench press is really about 10 to 20% lower than it would be if I didn't have this problem. So 100%, I'd be bench pressing a lot more than what you're seeing right now. But the fact is that this is the card I was dealt, and it forced me to go down this other path of de-identifying with the body. So it was a blessing in that way, right? So the fact is that I didn't heal it, but I just trained around it and just continued to work with it. And I know that, you know, doing movements where I'm totally relaxed up above my head and letting my shoulder pop out is not necessarily a good idea. You know, so that's it. Dorian Yates is starting a new federation. Any thoughts? I've never heard about that. That's interesting. What kind of federation? Is it bodybuilding or what? So Reese 50, he has a effed up shoulder too. You can totally cheese some exercise. I don't know what that means. Not training wise, you feel you aren't improving. No, I'm improving. I'm improving just in different ways because, you know, when I'm bench pressing like this, almost like sideways a little bit, like it's harder for me to find a groove, and so much a groove is it contributes to strength. So it's harder for me to find that perfect groove in order to push the muscles in the same way that I used to be able to. So I'm still working with it. Everybody that's been on this channel, if you watch my videos, just go back at my videos a year ago and look at my physique now, you'll see that my physique has changed. It actually is improving again. So it's pretty good. Cheat. Oh, okay. So let me go back to what you said here. Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, but you can do some rotator cuff exercises. You can do some stability type exercises and everything, and that all helps. But in the end, when you have something torn right off, it does affect how you train, right? So it'll affect me training in biceps. Like my bicep training has changed because my shoulder's looser, so my bicep has to stabilize the shoulder at the same time as I'm training biceps. So that has changed my bicep training quite a bit. So there's a little bit more shoulder movement than there used to be in all this. So all these subtleties I don't really talk about too much on the channel because people don't really care to listen to it, but a lot of guys out there are like, oh, you swing your arms too much or you move your arms too much and stuff. Well, there's a reason. It's like the biomechanics have totally changed in my body based on some of the injuries, right? So, yeah, my fault for enjoying hockey so much. So, Jeffrey Smith, have I heard of Eckhart Tolle? Yes, I do. My wife actually does the same type of work, except for she does more healing work, and she's an internationally renowned energetic healer. So, she has done a lot of energetic healing work on me that has really, you know, taken my body to the next level with a lot of things. And at the same time, a lot of the spiritual practices and meditation I've done have also played a role in me being able to do what I do now, right? Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, as they say, and my will moves in different directions from periods of time. Like I'm not really looking at being the best bodybuilder in the world. That's not my reason for living. My reason for living is just being here so deeply and enjoying it. And bodybuilding right now has become part of my creative endeavor, which I really enjoy. So doing the videos and everything is made my creativity kind of bloom and all that. And that's kind of fun, making the music and all these sort of things. But I'm not, you know, here to say, okay, everything in my life is so important. If I get bigger biceps, that's the most important thing. It's just one small part of a much bigger picture. So yeah, so I'm not saying that bodybuilding is bad. It's just part of a much bigger plan that I've got going on that changes day to day, right? So Kevin Cortez, okay, he's saying if progressive overload by getting stronger eventually is the best method for overloading the muscle naturally, and a lower rep range like 4 to 6 lets us get stronger faster, wouldn't that be the best? Well, you're assuming that 4 to 6 is the best way to get stronger there, Kevin. You're assuming, right? That's not necessarily true though, right? You're making some assumptions here, right? So I did experiments a long time ago and I did 4 to 6 reps every workout for a period of time, and you know what happened? I actually started losing strength. I started going backwards. Why, right? Why would this happen? This is how the body adapts. That's why I cycled the reps. That's why I do higher reps and lower reps and everything, because I noticed there was a synergistic thing that happened where I gained strength faster. Now, you could also say if progressive overload is the way to do it, then getting stronger is the way to get bigger and all that kind of stuff. That's great. And just stick to 4 to 6 reps all the time. But the problem is you will also notice that when you stick to those heavier rep ranges, you will burn out and you will get injured because there's a lot more damage done to all sorts of tissue, including the joints, when you're using weights of that level. There's also more strain. There's more instability that happens with that type of rep range. So it is a lot more dangerous on the system. So you, okay, I'll talk to you like this, Kevin. This might help you, okay? And I'm not being condescending by any means, but just that I'm very enthusiastic about what I'm saying here. I had guys come to my garage when I was 15, 16 years old, okay? So you have the best recovery in the world at that age, right? Your recovery is like, you know, you recover from anything. You recover from 2 car accidents and a squat workout, and it's all the same thing. And, you know, by the weekend, you're good, right? But the bottom line, guys would come to my garage, and they do some bench presses. And, of course, I'd be sticking to my sets of 10 because my dad was very adamant about that, saying, Jason, stick to your sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, what you can do, and then just raise the weight when you can do 4 sets of 10 and then move on from there. So he says, I don't want you messing up your shoulders and all this kind of stuff, right? Just because you have access to a bench press, because he knew how kids were, right? Well, anyway, my friends would come over. And what they do is every second day they'd train bench press with me, or every third day or whatever, and then they'd try their max almost every time, right? Because heavier is better, right? You know, if they can do 150 pounds for a set of 10 reps, why not do a set of 200 pounds for 1 rep? Why not do that? So that's what they would do. They would come over, do a couple sets to warm up, and then boom, right into that max rep. Every single one of them that did this, I think there was about 3 of them. Todd Kinney comes to mind, but there was 3 of them. And when they came to the house, within about a month to a month and a half, they'd have shoulder problems, shoulder issues where they couldn't train anymore. And then they'd have to quit. They'd have to quit training for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months until their shoulder got better. So in that way, in that regard, does that seem like a faster method to you? No, right? If you get injured, that will sideline your progress way more so than getting that extra 4% gains that you would have got short term, right? So you cannot go heavy like that all the time. It is one of those things where the extra tension, it's kind of like being run over by a tractor instead of a bicycle. It's just too much. So when there's too much stimulus and too much breakdown, then it will cause an injury. So there's a tearing threshold, right? You don't want to hit that threshold. Stuart Crook, what happens to my diet when I'm on vacation? Do I still try to eat regularly or not worry about it? Oh yeah, no, I still try to eat when I'm on vacation regularly and stuff, but I don't worry about whether it's strict or not. You know, like today I had some ice cream too, right? Because it was so freaking hot. So I went for a swim in the lake, and then I went and got some ice cream, and I don't really mind eating some stuff there, but then I have to get back on the program of eating the protein and the carbs together and stuff, because then I don't feel like shit when I go to the gym, because I suffer. Like, I'm one of those guys where if I eat really bad food, like too much of it, like last week, or I had a pizza last week, 5-6 days ago, I met with my parents, I had a pizza, and I had some ice cream earlier that day and whatever. It was one of those days where I just ate whatever. And then the next day I went in the gym to work out, and I was just like, my God, I was sucking wind. It was so bad. It was like, I just felt like everything was just hurting and tight, and it just felt horrible. So I have to watch what I eat. Otherwise I will suffer in the gym. I noticed the correlation between food and my training energy and my pump and everything is really, really closely related, right? Okay, so Kevin Cortez, not testing 1 rep max law. I never do that. But Kevin, I don't know if you're, okay, Kevin, really be with me here. I need you to be with me here for a second, okay? I hopefully you're not misunderstanding me here. I'm giving you some pretty profound stuff here. 4 reps, do you understand? 4 reps is way more extreme on the system than say 15. Can we agree on that? Right? Way more extreme. And that will be pretty much, like there was a guy that just got on here, natural bodybuilder, tears his pec. I made a video about it. He tore his pec doing reps of 6, not reps of 4. So he wasn't even going as intense, and he tore his pec. So what I'm trying to say to you, is that that type of intensity of 1 rep, 4 reps, 5 reps, that's more intense on the system. And although it can give you some short-term faster results, in the long term, you need to change the reps around and adjust the recovery time accordingly, depending on what's going on in the body. But sticking with heavy weight all the time is not the fastest way. I tried it. Trust me, I tried it. That's what I did. Every idiot that steps in the gym tries that. Every idiot. I'm calling myself an idiot. I was a freaking idiot, and I'm telling you are an idiot if you think this is going to work. I'm telling you. Try it though, because I know you won't believe me, because I'm just some asshole authority just telling you what to do. Do whatever you want. But what I'm saying is, you're going to remember my voice when you start pulling things and you start noticing that your strength starts to go down and stuff starts to get inflamed up, and you're visiting the physiotherapist because your shoulder's all messed or has bursitis or something, and you're going to think these are a bunch of random accidents. They're not. When you go heavy all the time, this is what happens, because it starts to put way more stress in your joints, right? 5x5 is good, but remember 5x5 isn't actually to failure with 5 reps either for the first few sets, right? So, yeah. So anyway, yes, I do a weekly undulating periodization in a way. Stretch 2240. If you go to my website, I have 2-day split programs. I have 3-day split programs. I have all these programs on there, and I show you the rep ranges and everything that I do in there. So if you want to purchase one of those programs, it's one way to support this channel, and it's also a way that you can get an idea of how I structure my workouts. 1 second here. I'm going to close my garage. Static Dreams Entertainment, I guess you just got here. Yeah, no, of course I meditate. Yeah, I'm a meditation teacher, so I probably should be meditating, I think. And Arrest Cosmos, I'm assuming you're asking me about good form as far as it still can affect you and cause problems if you go heavy too often. Yes, it can. Because heavy is just another form of intensity. Too intense, too much tension, causes a certain amount of damage in the areas, micro damage in the joints, in the muscles, the tendons, everything. And a little bit of that damage is good, but you do it too often, too much, then it becomes bad, because now the body can't keep up with the recovery, you see? So this is the thing. Yeah, Patrick L, 5x5. See, the thing is, the problem is, Patrick L, with 5x5, a lot of times what most people do when they do the 5.5, not 0.5, fuck, sorry, 5x5 training, is that they pick a weight that they can do 5 reps with, but they don't pick a weight that they can do 5 reps with for 5 sets. They pick a weight they can do 5 reps with for the first set, and the next set they're only getting 4, you know, that kind of thing. They're going too intense, right? So you have to be conservative with the weight, and then from there slowly move up. Right? Because the body just doesn't put on weight, it doesn't put on strength progressively every single workout. If it did, I'd be lifting 1,000 pounds on the bench right now, right? So that's the thing. You know, people have this, especially when they start off, they have this overwhelming expectation of the body and how fast it's supposed to adapt. And in the beginning, you get the beginner gains. The beginner gains are so easy. Like you get the strength so fast, you know, your first 20% strength gains or something like that. But after that, it slows down quite a bit because now you're asking the body to do something much bigger and it's much harder. And it does not progress the way people think. They might have a structure, oh, I'm going to progress just because I'm just going to will it. No, it doesn't happen like that. You have to ease it. You have to have, you could say bodybuilding foreplay, right? And then when all of parameters come together in a perfect combination, then something happens called strength and endurance and muscle mass, right? Hi Jason, what muscles respond better to more frequent training? I would say all muscles seem to respond better to more frequent training, but one thing I did notice is that anything that requires coordination really responded better, such as squats and one-legged squats and anything where you had to balance, anything where the groove was important. I found that more often seemed to be a better system, you know, so more often you just got more coordinated, right? Yeah, Kevin Cortez, isn't that what deloads are for? Yeah, but deloads, yeah, okay. So you take a week off, right? Then you go back and you start pounding the shit out of the joints again. So you're assuming that all of a sudden the joints are fixed and healed and everything. But what I'm trying to say to you is that there's the other side of this. When you do a deload and you take a week off, then you jump back into heavy weight right away. What's going to happen is it almost shocks the system. It's like the body's like, okay, now I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed. But then you go back and it's almost like a shock, and it's almost like, okay, here's one way of explaining it. Sometimes I use workouts as a warm-up for a bigger workout, such as this week. You know, I'll work out, just do some light, just with a plate, do some squeezing movements, whatever, get the pump in there, then the next day I can train harder. But if you just take a week off, you're assuming that everything's going to heal, but it doesn't. And what I'm saying is there's a way of not over-torturing the joints and working the muscles in the process, but not causing twice the damage to the joint as you are to the muscles. And what I'm saying is when you're lifting in the 4 rep range and stuff, you're basically causing a lot more damage in the joints than say doing 15 reps or 12 reps. Now, I'm not saying not to do heavy. Doing heavy here and there is good. But once you start doing high reps, it helps pump blood in the area so that way the joints can recover and it gives them that recovery time. So I think what you do on a daily basis is a more effective way. It's a more effective way to get the body to function and to adapt than it is to just shock it. And then say, okay, it's going to somehow heal if I take a couple of days off now. That's like saying if I have a car accident every day, that somehow my body's going to heal from that, and then my body's going to be better off. Or I take a sword and I chop my fucking limbs off, you know, and somehow they're going to grow back. It's like, no, it's just too much. If you do too much damage to the body, you will actually go backwards. It is not positive in that way. There are guys that can heal from it, and sometimes genetically, you know, some guys might be more superior than others in this process, but I found that what you can do on a daily basis is really important. What you can do on a daily basis or every second day more frequently and just work with it. It's kind of like dancing with a dance partner, the steps, you know, your dance partner steps backwards, you step forward, you know, that kind of thing. It's more harmony involved in that type of training than you just beating the shit out of the body, causing massive damage, sometimes injuries. Like for instance, say you tear your pec. Say you're doing big bench presses and you just tear your pec. That can happen. When you're doing sets of 3, 4 reps or 1 rep or 2 reps, you know, guys do it all the time. It's like a common occurrence in powerlifting. So would that say to you that that's a good way of getting better gains, is tearing something? No. And I'm telling you, once you go to the higher percentages of your 1 rep max, you are going to be taking more of a risk with that. And if you do it too often, you're testing fate. You're going to basically be gambling with yourself. So heavy is good. It is, but heavy all the time, not good. It burns you out and it will basically cause damage that you cannot recover from. So Arrest Cosmos is asking me how come sometimes you can't feel the muscles he's trying to train when I'm doing everything exactly like I'm supposed to. Like one week it works great, but not next week. Sometimes it could be a nutritional thing there, Arrest Cosmos. Sometimes you're not eating enough. Sometimes you might not be sleeping enough. You may have other factors involved, but I noticed that your diet really does play a role in your mind-muscle connection. So if you're eating too much crap, you're not eating like protein and carbs or protein and fats, whatever diet you're on, I don't know what one you're on, but when you're eating so that your blood sugar is stable and stuff, I noticed that there is a lot more mind-muscle connection. So that could be a factor that's going on. Stretch 2240 saying frequency versus weekly volume. Yeah, weekly volume once again is just one of those big picture type of things that doesn't apply. It's just a bunch of bullshit, honestly. It's another reflection of how disconnected people are from life. It's kind of like saying I can only drink so many gallons of water a week, and then I will do it. If I drink all the gallons of water from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, then for some reason I won't need to drink Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And that's going to be the most ideal way to live. That's the way I think of weekly volume. Once you start taking volume like that and you start spreading it over a period of time, it doesn't work that way. You know, it just doesn't work that way. Everything is in this moment. This is the most important thing I can teach you. Everything has to be in this moment. It cannot be about over the week of how much volume and all this. That's just some sort of mathematician's way of looking at life that has nothing to do with reality, really. Yeah. Yeah, Chris Whitehead, what's better, a good pump or a random breakdance in my garage with no music blasting? Yeah, I think a good pump's good, but you never know. If it's a new song, if it's a new beat, then the random breakdance that's pretty damn good. If I make a song that I really like, yeah. Okay, so re-yeast 50, people nowadays tend to be on the overfed than lacking nutrients. Actually, that's not true, re-yeast. People might be overfed, but that does not mean that they're getting nutrients. Actually, people are malnourished more than ever because the farmland and everything and the GMO bullshit and everything, there's a lot of people that do not get the proper vitamins and nutrients. But they are getting too much calories, you're right. But the nutrition is not there. The nutrition is just not there in the food like it used to be. Yeah, Jason Rivero, Norwegian study versus frequency versus weekly volume showed frequency was king, and I would agree with that. Frequency is king. Reminding the body every day that something needs to happen, it needs to adapt. It's like the callus principle. I don't get calluses on my hand by training once a fucking week, right? Imagine if I dug a ditch. Like, just think of this logic, okay, guys? This is really genius shit that I'm sharing with you, okay? So just suck this up, okay? If I dug a ditch and worked 12 hours digging that ditch once a week, and just tore my hands to shit. They're all bloody because I don't have any calluses on there, right? And then I take 6 days off and then do it again. Do you think that my hand would really look very good? It probably wouldn't even be recovered by the time I dig the ditch again, and I wouldn't actually get calluses because it's when there's too much stimulus, there's too much breakdown of tissue, then the body cannot keep up. It's like there's a certain threshold, and once you go beyond that, then it's overwhelming for the body, and now you need 10 times the time to recover, right? So that's why I find frequent training with lower volume, it tends to be the best possible policy for a lot of people. And the amount of volume will be different depending on the person's threshold, but that's more what I look for. Okay, so Kevin Cortez, you're saying you'll keep training heavy with safe form and take a break when you feel your body drained and the joints achy, but someone I know follows Mike Matthews, trains 4 to 6 for years with no major injuries. Okay, so Kevin, I would say no matter what you think you know, I've been doing this for 3 decades, okay? So I'm gonna be a straight up prick right now. I've been doing this for 30 years, okay, Kevin? So just because a guy trained for 4 or 5 years with no major injuries doesn't mean he's done yet, okay? Because we're gonna talk about which level he gets to. And at the same time, we also have to take into account that different people have different genetics. I knew guys that had ligaments like frickin' tree trunks, and it didn't matter what they did not get injured. So, of course we have to take in the law of individuality. And if you are one of these people that can do this, then that's fine. And if you find this out about yourself, then yeah, maybe that's a better way to train for you. But the best policy would be to not pound your joints so that they get to the place where they're aching, so that you have to take a deload. because that means that you're actually pounding your joints in a way that is probably not the most efficient way for you to stimulate the body to grow and to gain muscle. That's all I'm saying. All right. So yeah, you can watch some people do things, but that doesn't mean it applies to you. That's my point, right? So just conduct your own experiment, go forward and do this. But if you're noticing a lot of joint pain and you're getting this a lot, then there is a flaw in the way you are training. That's it. And you can wait till it gets to a place of, like, to a point of no return. But I would prefer you not get to a point of no return of tearing something off the bone, or getting a herniated disc or something like that, right? Because I push my body in certain ways. Like I thought, okay, shit, if I don't go to the gym and lift 5 plates for reps today, then I'm not going, that kind of thing. Like, I've done that and seen the limitation of it. So I agree with heavy lifting. So I'm not telling you not to lift heavy. I think you need to lift heavy, but you also need to rep out here and there. And I think that would be a way of helping hedge your bets, you could say, okay? Because that blood flow will help your recovery, so that way your joints aren't basically dying on you, So anyway, take that with a grain of salt. That's a grandpa talking to you here, so. Yeah, Stuart Crook, you're right. A lot of juice powerlifter guys don't get knee pain because of what they're doing and all this shit. They're doing a bunch of juice and their body's all full of water retention and everything. So that's the other consideration we have to talk about. Is this guy you're talking about natural or not? Because if he's not natural, there's a whole other thing going on there. So that's I'm talking about natural stuff here, so. Okay, what age was I when I bench pressed 205? 15. I was 15 years old when I bench pressed 205. Russ Cosmos, have I ever done only high reps for a period of time? Yeah, periods of time I have. And I found that the threshold of 50 reps and above was too much reps if I wanted to maintain muscle mass. So I found that doing reps like that, it wasn't as good for me. I found that doing sets of 10, 12, 8, and then doing the sets of 50 or 40, then I had a better synergy going on with muscle pump and size and all this. But if I went too high in the reps, then I noticed that I wasn't getting the same type of gains, right? So that's why I always kind of say, but this will be different depending on the person. So I'm not saying that you should care about what I did, but I'm just saying that's what happened with me. Do I ever have any pain or minor injuries? Well, here's the thing. My stuff is actually from the hockey injuries, right? So it's not from training. That's the thing. It's this shoulder was loose because I got hit in hockey and tore a rotator cuff. And so sometimes there's instability in there, so that I have to pay attention to when I'm training, which doesn't affect my training much at all. But for a while there, I noticed that my upper back was tight and I had to work out a trigger point that was in here, like a knot that was causing some sort of, shoulder inflammation in here. But once I figured out that knot, then there was no problem. So I don't really get problems, but one thing I do get is sometimes quad tightness or this or that. And you know what the problem is? Sometimes, because in some of my videos when I'm doing squats and stuff, I try to go a little bit deeper and I notice it's just really not right for me. But that sometimes will put stress on certain areas. But I'm just trying to kind of prevent a little bit of the trolling sometimes, right? But sometimes that will cause my knees to not necessarily feel the best. They feel a little tight. But there's also something else to do with my meditation practice that is also affecting my training, which causes something else to be going on, which is a whole other factor. So it's not something I talk about on this channel. But the bottom line is that there are energetic patterns and things that I flow through the body on a regular basis that do affect how my body functions. And sometimes it will feel invulnerable to all things, and then other days it won't. So that isn't really a training thing, though. It's a different type of stimulus. It's almost like something else is going on. That's another variable that most of you guys don't have going on. So I meditate every day there, Jeffrey. Every day. Every night, pretty much. Yeah, Rest Cosmos, you just did sets of 20 for curls, new level of soreness. Yeah, I find with isolation movements, when you're just doing one body part, like bicep or tricep or something, I find sets of 20 to 35, 40 reps are actually ideal. When I go too heavy on isolations, I find I don't get the same sort of pump and stuff. So Yeah, you'll see that 70% of the time I stick to 20 reps and above. Yeah, Stuart Cook, regular reps of 20 to 30, yeah, I would say that's pretty okay. And then the odd day, throw in a 10 rep day, you know, like say once a week or once every 2 weeks for each body part or something, throw in a 10 rep, you know, compound exercise, like your squat or your deadlift or your, you know, something like that, bench press, you know, shoulder press. I find that that works the best for me too. I try to do, like with squats, like I can get 4 plates with my form, okay, what I do, I can get 4 plates for a set of 10 reps to 20 reps, somewhere around there. You know, something in there is like comfortable for me to do. And I don't go heavier than 4 plates at this point, but I know at some point I will. But I find that staying within that 10 to 20 rep threshold with certain exercises seems to be the best, especially when there's more of a danger of injury. But yeah, it totally depends on what you're, you know, okay, Stuart, you're saying you're getting sore hips from high rep squats. Yeah, you might be going too deep, 100%. That you might be going too deep, or you might have some sort of lower back tightness that's going on. Because lower back tightness, if there's a lower back spasm in the lumbar, it can radiate pain in the front of the hip, okay? So it might not be you going too deep. It might not. It might be or it might not. Because if you have spasms in the lower back, that can be radiating pain to the front of the hip. So get that checked out by a massage therapist. Get some massage therapy work on your lower back. I think that'll help. Jeffrey Smith, I never track my progress, but at the same time, you got to remember I'm having a video record of all my stuff, right? So I'm always doing videos. So sorry, I'm spilling shit here. I have no room, 1 second. Yeah, you got to remember I'm doing a video log of all my stuff all the time, right? So if I'm doing yes, Stuart, you might find that your lower back feels fine, but you won't notice this. I'm telling you, like a trigger point in your lower back, you won't feel pain in your lower back. It might just cause pain, a pain referral pattern in your hips. So get it checked out anyway. I'm telling you, it might be that going on. So your lower back might be fine. It doesn't mean your lower back's messed, but there might be a spasm or something that's causing a referral point pattern, right? It's almost like a reflex response. Okay. So anyway, just so you know, I've had that before, so I know it quite intimately. But anyway, yeah, as far as keeping track of things, I don't keep track because I do have videos, so I know what I did in my videos and stuff too. And I do keep track in here as far as what my main lifts are, how many reps I did lately, right? Because who cares what I did 10 years ago? Who cares what I did 5 years ago? I'm caring what I did last week, and is it improving or is it regressing? That's really what I'm paying attention to. And a lot of times it isn't about the training, it's more about, is my diet on point? Is my sleep on point? Are these things working towards that goal? And sometimes, you know how it is, your life changes. Sometimes all of a sudden your activity level went up during the day, or sometimes you did shoulder presses the day before and now your bench press is lower. So there's a lot of factors that sometimes come into play when you say, okay, should I get 12 reps or not? Because I got 12 reps last week on a certain exercise, right? So yes, and also when you are on a carb-reduced diet or any of that, yeah, you will have a lower amount of weight that you can move. 100% their agent name, Hewitt. Yeah. So basically, you'll have a different amount of training time. You have a different pump. If you're focused too much, here's the thing. Here's diet. Okay, when you want to diet down, if you go too low on carbs, you're going to notice like a drastic drop in your strength and stuff. So you want to make sure that that strength is not drastically dropping. You want to make sure that if it is going to drop, it's dropping just a little bit, but at the same time, you're noticing that your body is changing. But if you're trying to change it too much, that means you're going to be eating away muscle tissue, right? So. Agent name Hewitt. I didn't really do deadlifts for a long time there, agent name Hewitt, and I talk about it earlier in this video, so if you want to actually rewind this, you'll see that. So I recommend you do that. But you're saying, when I first started training, how long did it take me to hit a 225 bench? A couple of years. It took me a couple of years to hit a 225 bench, probably. And then grade 9, and then, yeah, it was a couple of years. I think it was a couple of years, actually. And that's what I did. I did more bench press and stuff. I didn't do deadlifts at that point. And squats, I didn't get into squats until a couple of years after that, actually. How many days without carbs until your body is carb depleted? That depends on your activity level, right? So if you have a lot of activity and stuff like that, then it'll take a lot shorter, obviously, right? So, but say you're just doing some weight training, I'd say it'd be a couple of days for sure. A couple of days. Jay Moline, how can you support my channel? There's a couple ways you can support my channel, Jay. You can go to Patreon. I have the link down below this video. There'll be a Patreon page. You can go there and you can support my channel every month by giving a donation or whatever. What I'm going to be doing is only live feeds on the Patreon page at some point, and I will be only responding at some point to comments on Patreon. So that way I don't have to deal with the trolls. So people that are asking me questions, I'll be answering just on Patreon. So if people are donating $1 or $2 a month, or $20 or $50 or $100 or whatever, then I'll be dealing with them as VIP clients because they're actually supporting the work. I'll also be releasing some exclusive content on there at some point as well. The other thing you can do is you can buy training programs from our website, naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, or you can make a donation there too. There's a donation button. So if you want to make a donation, you can do that as well. So it's up to you. But thanks for asking. Okay, so one tail man, what are some of the signs that you're carb depleted? Well, your muscles will flatten out. You'll probably feel a little bit dizzy almost sometimes if you're really depleted. You'll be peeing like crazy, you know, because your body gets rid of the carbs through water, carbohydrate, right? So you'll notice that. But yeah, you'll notice that you'll be a lot flatter. You'll notice that you won't be able to get a pump in the gym. You'll notice that your strength will go down. That's totally carb depleted. I wouldn't recommend going totally into carb depletion on a regular basis. That's not really the best way to train, I don't think. Yeah. No, I never did weigh my food there, Andrew. Yeah, I never did weigh my food. Jeffrey Smith, is my father still with us? Does he still lift? Yes, he still lifts. He had years. See, this is the other thing, Jeffrey. So this is interesting you're bringing this up. My dad's a pretty awesome guy, so I'm just going to give him a shout out there. My arm, my bicep with a pump is about 18 and a quarter there at McDonald's there. Okay, so right now at this point, but I'm hoping I'm getting it bigger here. So the bottom line is, Jeffrey, yeah, my dad is an awesome guy. He was a world-class powerlifter. He was 8th strongest in the world in his weight class. I grew up with a gym in a garage. I grew up running around a gym when I was a kid. I grew up watching him do bench presses, deadlifts, and squats my whole life. So the first amount of training that I got knowledge from was from him. So he's the guy. My dad at 160 or so pounds was doing a deadlift of 600 pounds. So he was strong as a mountain. He could do a chin-up with somebody holding onto his back. So he was strong as hell. Like, he was unbelievably strong. But the problem is with my dad is that he had to work, you know, high amount of hours as a policeman. He had to, you know, support the family and everything. We moved from the other side of the country to here. They had no support and everything. So my mom and dad were basically working their asses off. And so this was a guy that was training. And I remember we moved to Iran when I was a kid. Yeah, my dad was a policeman, yeah. He's the one that inspired me to be a natural bodybuilder and to stay as a natural bodybuilder. Because I knew, see, most of you guys out there, I mean, it's not your fault or anything, but it was like, most of you guys out there didn't grow up with the type of influence that I grew up around, right? I was lucky to have a good dad. My life, socially speaking, as far as being a popular kid or anything, that was horrible. I was like one of those kids that was bullied and stuff, but at least I had a good dad and mom at home. Like, I didn't have a situation where I didn't have some sort of guidance or a blueprint to look for. Oh, okay, that seems to be a good kind of way to follow. Now, I'm not saying I became a stellar citizen in every single way and did everything that he would have thought would have been great, but in the end, you still will have that vision in your head of saying, okay, well, this can be done. Like, your parents will show you what can be done, right? So my dad showed me that you could gain muscle through lifting weights and you could gain muscle through training hard, right? But the other thing my dad did was that he squatted deep, because it was powerlifting, right? He wrapped his knees, and by the time he was in his 30s, he wasn't squatting anymore because his knees were a mess, okay? So these are some of the reasons why I made decisions to train my own way when I was bodybuilding, because it scared the shit out of me thinking, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to squat when I'm in my 30s if my knees are a mess. And my dad would say, hey, Jason, be conservative with your knees, be conservative with your range of motion, because he knew what had happened to him from lifting a certain way. So that's why some of the experiment that he had conducted throughout his life, it continued through my lineage of training. So I was like conducting a further experiment through a second generation. And my brother was doing the same thing, my twin brother. It was almost like we were conducting a double-blind placebo study. What's the best way to train here? So my brother would try one technique, I'd try another technique, and then we'd say, oh my God, my knees fucking hurt when I do that. And, oh, are your knees hurting? No, my knees aren't hurting, but my legs are growing. It's like, so we'd actually make these realizations through this. And that's why I learned so much and became so sure about what worked, right? Because if I was having a stupid moment, I'd look at what my brother is doing, and then if he was doing something smart and it was working, then I'd be like, okay, I'll copy that for a bit and see if that works, right? So he has a similar structure to me, you know, maybe we can learn something. So this is really the point with my dad. He was really good. So he still trains, he still does some bench presses and stuff, but like I said, he was also one of those guys, had to do the rest pause, touch the chest all the time when he was doing his bench presses. And he was doing 315 for sets of 5 right up into his 50s, okay? Now, at some point, he actually developed a frozen shoulder in his left side. My brother has since healed that, so my dad's bench pressing again and stuff, lighter weights and things, higher reps, and doing a lot of bicycle riding. But that frozen shoulder was developed through him training and through basically overstretching the shoulder joint. And so I watched that. So that's another reason why I was like, oh, well, maybe touching the chest isn't always the best policy if I'm feeling like something's overstretching in that area, you know? So these are reasons why I changed the way I train and became more joint friendly, you could say. It was basically through watching this happen as a kid and as a young adult and as an older adult, right? Stuart Cook, yeah, no, he trains in some way, like I converted him, but the problem is, Stuart, when I converted some of the stuff that he was doing to what I was doing, it was almost like the damage was already done. It was almost too late, like such as doing a lot of external rotator cuff work and all this kind of stuff. He was basically not, you know, at that point, the damage, like I said, the damage was already done. I couldn't undo it, but he was still training though. He was actually trying some of the techniques and actually starting to work with it. But again, you know, his priorities were different because he was so damn busy working all the time. He was in forensics in the RCMP, the police, and he was working 70, 80-hour weeks and trying to work out through burnout and everything. So he was working out through a whole other thing. There was a lot of factors that were going on why his body got burned out at that time. So under those conditions, I would have got burned out too. So I can't really blame him for that. But at the same time, you definitely don't want to be bouncing off the joints when your body's in burnout, right? And you're not getting enough sleep and all this. So yeah, he did start to follow some of the principles, and now he is training his own way, listening to his body much more and as much as he can. But he's a little bit more stubborn than I am. This is Jeffrey Smith, my brother, did compete in bodybuilding. He won all the shows he went into with me. Pretty much he got second place or first place in his division because we'd be in height divisions and I'm about a half an inch or an inch taller, so we'd find a way to be in a different division. And a lot of times the promoters would want us in a different division because they did not want to judge identical twins together. It was too confusing for them in the same division. So a lot of times my brother and I would be in the overall together competing. Well, Reese 50, you're saying touching the chest is obtuse. Imagine hitting the floor with your chest in a push-up. You know what? Again, this is common sense stuff to you, but on the internet, there's a lot of people out there that just are just obsessed with this proper range of motion thing based on, they think that when I come down here, tense, then relax to get that extra kind of bounce off the chest, they think that's the best way to train. It's like, it's not necessarily the best way to train. Lately, I've been touching my chest with bench press just to shut them up. I've been doing it just to show that I can do it, but do I think it's the best way to do it? Not really. I don't think so. And I will be converting back to my old technique again because I've done this 1 month or so, or a month and a half experiment doing this, and I'm not necessarily getting better chest development from it, so there's the thing. Mendoza Michael, I did a video on squat shoes just a little while ago. He's asking about squat shoes, and I'm saying, I just get flat bottom shoes. I do not agree with these freaking Olympic lifting shoes that Tom Platz talks about. That stuff is all going to put way more stress on the knees. And if you have the right knees for it, like Tom Platz talked about this, I did a seminar with him and everything. He had a special type of knee, the way his knee was structured, where he could just bend all day over the knee, almost like, it's almost like he can kneel on the ground and then come off there and put all the stress from the squat on his knees, and it wasn't a problem. But most people aren't like that. I like the flat bottom squat right off my feet. As a natural bodybuilder, a natural person, I never had a heel to squat off of. And if I have to squat off of a heel, that means I'm gonna be putting way more stress on the knees. And the knees, in 90% of cases, are a weaker joint than the hip. The hip is a much stronger joint. So well, yeah, there you go, Stuart, yes. And I also think that the thing is that when you're squatting off the hips, that is the most ideal place to put power, because when you sprint from where? The hips, not the knees. When you're sprinting, that's where all of the power comes from, is from your hips, not the knees. So it makes sense when you're weight training to put more of the power type stuff above the hips, right? That's why the strongest muscle in the body is around the hip, the glute, right? And the hamstrings, these are the power muscles. So why would it make sense to put stress on the knees under weight training as your primary way of moving? It doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, normal tennis, Reese, that's right. Normal tennis shoes. I use Adidas flat bottom skate shoes. I love them because they look awesome. But no, I actually just love them. They just are awesome. I can't find the right colors right now. And unfortunately, Adidas has not reached out to me and said, Jason, you're so awesome. You're so awesome, Jason. We want to sponsor your channel and give you an endorsement contract and make you famous. They haven't reached out to me. I don't know why. Maybe you guys haven't called Adidas and said, hey, you got to check out this guy, Natural Gallant Bodybuilding. He's really cool. He wears Adidas shoes. Yeah, Stuart Crook, that's the thing. But even if, natural or not, okay? Because natural is one thing. Yes, that is one thing. But I know a lot of unnatural guys that if they squat out like Tom Platz, they tear their quadricep off the bone, right? There's no way they could do it, or they'd mess their kneecaps up, right? So you have to do what is natural for your body, right? So Arrest Cosmos, what about sissy squats? Because there's not really a lot of weight in them, you could do them. I never do them, just so you know. So yeah. I hear my cat outside. 1 second. I think he's coming in. Here he is. Cat's nuts. He's like, I can hear him outside. It's like he likes to go in, likes to come in, likes to go out, likes to come in. He has the total command of the territory. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Chris. You got Adidas on the phone now. You're working on it. Thanks, buddy. Oh, God, that would be hilarious. I would laugh so hard to get a call from Adidas. Yeah. Yeah, no, the Adidas shoes are awesome. I have a link down below to them too as well. The reason why I put them there is because they're just the best shoes I've ever squatted in. And I noticed that actually I was squatting in running shoes for a period of time because they have a natural heel, right? And I wasn't doing that because they have a natural heel. I was just doing it because they were just nice shoes. And for years I conducted this experiment. So this is why I'm talking to you about squat shoes and everything. And I would get running shoes. So they have this heel in them, but because they're a little bit unstable, I would actually be training and stuff, and then all of a sudden after the workout, I noticed my knees are really tight. My knees are really tight. Why are my knees really tight? And then I'd squat again, same thing. My knees would just be chronic problem. And then as soon as I switched to a flat shoe, because I was like, okay, maybe it's a shoe thing. I switched to a flat shoe. I went to some Atomics actually, and Atomics are actually some pretty awesome shoes for this too. Maybe I'll reach out to them. Atomics, they're really flat, kind of the same thing. They're high tops though. They're not as stylish, but they're pretty good shoes for squatting and doing legs in. And when I was doing that, then I noticed that my knees wouldn't hurt anymore. All of a sudden, no knee pain. Instantaneously, knee pain gone from doing flat shoes. So that's the thing. Workout in steel-toe boots. Well, the problem is with steel-toe boots is that they actually have, my cat's on my lap now. The problem with steel-toe boots is that they actually have a bit of a heel in them, so I don't like working out in a heel. My dad liked to work out in a heel for this reason, to be able to bend and get down more to the parallel position, but I just didn't like the stress it put on the knees. I didn't like it. Squash shoes probably would work well. I don't know what they look like, but I'm assuming they're probably pretty flat because of all the lateral movement. Yeah, they're good for weightlifting, yeah. Yeah, Jeffrey Smith, I'm enjoying the new house. Yeah, the new house is great because I actually have an area upstairs. I mean, we're still trying to get furniture in and all this and get settled in. And I got to paint the room, my media room, like where I'm doing all my video editing and stuff and answering your guys' comments at night on my laptop. The house is great. Some of the neighbors, like this is kind of a retirement community in a lot of ways and a vacation resort place. So some of the people are really nice, but some of the people are just old cranky bastards. They're just really bad people in some way. So I've noticed that, yeah, a lifetime of just crankiness in them. There's so much crankiness because, like we have a couple of cats, like I said, we're having a bit of a pissing contest with the neighbors right now because they're like, oh, the cat shouldn't be on our lawn and shouldn't walk through our territory or shouldn't shit in the bushes or something. It's like they're cats, man. They're outdoor cats. You know, they don't live by the same rules as the house dog. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, I don't even care if they're watching Stuart. Seriously, I already had the arguments with them, so it doesn't matter to me. But the bottom line is that, you know, some of them are nice and are open. I find that people that are open have a conversation. It's much better. But I think that some people, they just get so stuck in their own point of view. They don't really want to come to an agreement. They just want a reason to hate you, you know? So I noticed there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, right? Yeah, there's cranky because I don't squat ass to the grass. You know, they're you know, old hips, they can do it though. Yeah, they're probably yeah, they need to do something. Yeah. So, yeah, I find that sometimes. So Jay Moline, you're asking, do I use knee straps? No, I don't. I don't use knee wraps. The thing is that with knee wraps, this is the thing. I don't understand why this logic has not been seen by people. It seems obvious to me, but it has not been seen by people right now. And I guess it's because we're dealing with mostly the kindergartner or the grade 1 mentality of weight training. Everybody's getting introduced to weight training in the last 7 or 8 years of social media, but they're not really understanding really what's going on. If you have to put elastic bands around your knee so that you can bounce off the bottom, does that seem like you're using muscles when you're bouncing off the bottom? Right? If the elastic band, if the elasticity of the wrap itself is actually springing you out of the bottom, that's not really you working the muscle. So why are you doing that range of motion in the first place? It just seems stupid, right? It's like me squatting ass to the grass, but putting my ass on a machine when I get down to knee stability is one thing, but okay, I'll get to that. But it's like me squatting to parallel and then sitting on a seat, and then the seat goes down automatically and then up for me, right? It does the work for me. So why am I squatting down that far? It doesn't make sense. In a lot of cases, it doesn't really make sense to me. So does it keep your knee stable? Well, what does stability mean? Stability means that it's just keeping the ligaments from kind of shifting so you don't have an MCL tear or something like that. Well, why would you need the knee wrap for knee stability? Well, it's because you're going to a place where your knee isn't stable. And you're going to that place because guess what? The muscles aren't flexing. They're not firing under that range of motion. And that's why you need a knee wrap, because muscles are what keep the knee stable. So when you go into a place where the knees are actually relaxed, well, now they're saying, oh, the knee will blow out. It's not stable. Well, it's because that's why you have to put the wrap on there to keep it together, because your muscles can't function under that range of motion. So that's why it's just stupid. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to wear knee wraps. The only reason why guys are wearing knee wraps is because they're going to a range of motion that is not necessarily ideal for the body in most cases. For most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. So I would say if you're using knee wraps, that's just, it's like wearing a Band-Aid. If I'm wearing a Band-Aid, it means I have a cut. That's why I'm wearing the Band-Aid. But wouldn't it be better not to cut yourself in the first place? That's what I would think. Jeffrey Smith, have I noticed people doing more powerlifting movements and lifts today compared to 15 years ago? Yeah. I mean, there's this obsession on the internet right now, and over the last probably 4 or 5 years. Like let's just say back in the 90s when I was training in the gym, and that was when I was competing late 90s and early 2000s and stuff. There were people doing deadlifts and people doing squats here and there, but most people were doing the arm curls, the shoulders, and the bench presses. That's what they were doing when they were in the gym, right? But after the social media craze, then everybody started getting obsessed with the deadlift because they became obsessed with the ways they could measure themselves up to somebody else. And of course, on the internet right now, and with Photoshop and everything, guys are putting their pictures on Instagram and they're like, oh, look at me, I'm 140 with an ab vein. So it looks like I'm 200 or 250. So it looks like I'm really something special in bodybuilding. But meanwhile, if this guy stepped on stage, he'd get just blasted by a heavyweight off the stage, right? But on Instagram, from a certain angle or a certain lens, you can create that different illusion and make yourself look bigger or smaller, right? So there's been this illusion that's been perpetuated on there. So people are looking for different ways to measure themselves up, to measure themselves to other people. They're saying, okay, I can deadlift this person can deadlift that. And deadlift is kind of like one of those things where you lift from the floor and you lift to here, and it's kind of non-negotiable. It's easy to say, oh, that's a standard. Although, like I've talked about today, is that how hard that lift is for one person to the next can be twice as hard depending on their dimensions and their joint ratios. But it's very easy to say, hey, I did 600, you did 550. That means you're insignificant as a human being compared to me, right? So there's this whole ego thing going on the internet. So a lot of times these types of lifts have become more obsessive for people. And also because there's not as much wisdom, they don't understand that straining through something doesn't necessarily mean you're stronger because you strained through with a rounded back and then lifted the weight. That doesn't mean you're stronger than the other guy that made sure he kept proper form because he just didn't want to blow out his spine, right? So yeah, there's an obsession with just putting as much heavy weight on the bar as possible and lifting it just to show off. But that's always been involved in the gyms, but it's gotten worse with certain lifts such as deadlift and squat because now there's this glamorization around it. Like, ooh, look at me, I built a booty and all this kind of stuff. So you're getting these people thinking that they're reinventing the wheel because they're doing step-ups with a dumbbell or something. They're like, oh, look at me. Meanwhile, when I watch them, I'm like, well, if I was training you, there's no fucking way you'd be doing it that way because you're doing it wrong. You're basically taking the tension off. Like they'll do a step-up because it's higher, because a higher step-up must be better, right? But it's not, because a lot of times they're stepping up, and then when they step down, now all their weight transfers to the back leg, and then they go forward to step up on the front leg, back and forth. But they're not keeping that tension on the front leg. So there's a lot of adjustments that I would be making based on what they're doing. But like I said, everybody's an expert now. On YouTube and Facebook, everybody's an expert. They got 3 years experience in the gym and now they're an expert because they read all the articles and the research, you know? So that's kind of the thing. That's kind of the curse of the internet. But the blessing is that information has never cycled around faster than it is now. I mean, the magazines back in the day, you'd read something and you would get some information that was accurate and some information that was accurate possibly for the guy that was telling you about it, but not for you because you were a natural guy and you had no idea. Like when I was in my teenage years, I had no idea the IFBB guys were, you know, doing what they were doing and stuff. I had delusions of grandeur thinking I was going to bench press 500 pounds and be 240 and stuff on stage. And when I got older, if I just kept on putting in the work, right? But yeah, each time had its advantages and disadvantages, really. That's my point, really. Okay, so inescapable reality, he has a session, he has to do more every time or else he loses interest. Yeah, well, inescapable reality, you're going to find out the flaw in that thinking soon enough. You know? Yeah, I mean, that's actually, that sounds a lot like a drug addict, actually. I'm not making fun of you here because I know you're a hell of a nice guy, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the thing that causes overdose, doesn't it? You know, it can be the same thing with training, just so you know. If you have to do heavier every single time, okay, you already did overdose, okay. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so this is where the meditation path comes in, okay? Dun, dun, right? Everything has to be about relationship, okay? Obsession is not healthy, okay? You know, you can manipulate it to your advantage for a period of time in escapable reality, but the same type of problems will happen. The same type of problems will happen with your life if you do not get this under control, okay? So you got to take your mental discipline to a deeper level. So it's okay to push yourself. I'm not saying it's not okay to try to shoot past that limitation, okay? So say you got 15 reps on the bench one day and you want to get 16. Nothing wrong with pushing to that. But if you're mentally suffering about it and then you're not even enjoying the training anymore, that's going to be a problem because you cannot make gains every single workout. That's impossible. The body does not work that way. So you have to find a way to enjoy it. You know, if you're not getting enough reps or if you're not lifting more weight, then say, oh, geez, how am I feeling today? You know, connect more to the feeling. Connect to the feeling of the workout. Connect to the relationship. The relationship is important. So if you have overdosed before, and I'm not making fun of that because good for you for sobering up if you know, have went through that. You need to basically decide now what's more important, right? And relationship is the most important thing because enjoying your life is what this is all about, right? I mean, what's the point of training if you never enjoy your life? I mean, honestly, what's the point of training? So what? Say you get 25-inch arms one day, 100-inch arms. I don't know. You're bench pressing 5,000 pounds, and you know you're like a fucking titan. You know, you can lift a mountain and throw it, but you're still miserable. Then you're going to have to throw that addiction into something else, you know? So the key to everything is learning how to enjoy this moment, and it takes baby steps. It's not about having to be giggling with ecstasy in every single moment, but if you just take a moment to stop thinking about what should happen and enjoy what is happening, some real magical stuff can reveal itself to you. So it's important for you to do that. You know, I mean, I have some muscle, but that's not the source of my happiness. So I'll guarantee you that, you know, because this was taken away from me. When I dislocated my shoulder, a lot of my identification and my bench pressing, you know, doing sets of 315 for sets of 12 to 15 reps, that was all of a sudden taken away from me, ripped from me as soon as I had a shoulder injury. So that was kind of where I had to actually look and say, okay, shit, where's the source of my happiness coming from? Because the body will come and go, you know? So at some point, maybe I can't be super lean or super strong if I can't train as much or eat as well as I should. But does that mean I shouldn't be happy? You know, I think this is important for you to take this and be happy and understand that the happier you are, and if you actually enjoy this, then you actually will make more gains in the long run because you will stick it out. You'll be more consistent, right? You're not going to just be there conditionally, like, oh, as long as I'm improving every single day, then I'm there, but I'll just quit the minute that it's not going perfect, right? Yeah, my cat's agreeing with me. Yeah, and that's really important there in Escapable Reality. It's great that you're doing that and working on that. And I know that it's probably a tough place that you're in, because when people go through some sort of addiction problems and things in their life, they don't realize that a lot of the circuits in their system that are the experience of happiness have been burned out a bit. They've been kind of burned out. So it takes you a few years really before that starts to reset again, where you're even capable of experiencing happiness from the same place maybe somebody next to you is. So just be patient, just work one step at a time, be in the moment, and just trust that everything will be okay in time if you keep working at it, right? And I know guys that have been through this. I work with people with my other work like this. It took them 2 or 3 years of meditating and just being here, and then finally they started to smile again, and things started to become a much different experience, although they couldn't explain why. It's not like they had to do it. It's more of a waiting process and a healing process, right? So yeah, good for you for weight training and taking care of your health and stuff in the process, right? Alessandro Fedini, yeah, people are asking me this all the time, how to work out, how does it change to work out in your 40s as opposed to 20s and 30s? It isn't really changed for me, because it's really the same. It's really the same for me. It's just that I have some injuries from hockey that happened, and but it's not like, oh my God, you know, I can't train or whatever because I'm so old and decrepit, I can't freaking train anymore. It's like, you know, maybe I'm not getting the gains that I got, but that's because I'm already there. You know what I'm saying? I'm already where I need to be. So how can I keep gaining like unlimited? You know, it's not like, you know, Dragon Ball Z where it's unlimited power or something like that. It just comes like, so the fact is that, you know, you don't have to, you know, you don't have to basically just put yourself in a coffin once you get over 30 years old or something, as much as pop culture will try to, you know, tell you that. You know, it's like you can keep improving. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, there's differences in the body. Maybe I don't recover in some way, maybe, but I don't know. I think your recovery always will go where your enthusiasm is. Like wherever your enthusiasm is, that's where your body will recover. And I think that sometimes when you mature and you get different priority systems and stuff in place, you will have energy moving in different ways that is different, right? So obviously when you're 20 years old, you're chasing different dreams than when you're 40. And yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, so sometimes people ask me about how training is now. It's like, it's almost like I don't need training. Training needs me. It's kind of like, it's more kind of like going to sleep at night. It's something I just do, right? Yeah. And the thing is that I am making gains and stuff, and I just have a different history to deal with now. That's the difference, you know? My diet hasn't changed much, Jeffrey, with age. Hasn't changed, except for the fact that I am more in tune with what works for me, because I've tried different diets and stuff, and now I'm more aware that I have to not eat as much junk. Like I can't get away with eating as much junk, that's for sure, and getting lean. So, but that wasn't as much age though, okay? Because that changed by the time I was from 22 years old to the time I was 25, 26. That really changed. So in that area, that was really the biggest change in my diet then. So yeah, I would say my metabolism is not quite as fast as it was then, but I also don't have quite as much muscle as I did then because of some of the injuries I got from hockey and plus the 10 years of skating hard and all that stuff. So Yeah, that's really it. But it isn't an age thing as much as it is probably the mileage, you know? Yes, I have cheat days all the time there, Vikram. Yeah, I had some ice cream today, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Okay, RS Cosmos, any tips on stopping procrastinating? Okay, the trick to stopping procrastinating is to breaking down your goal or your ambition into small steps. So instead of saying, okay, I gotta clean the whole garage out today, I'm just going to take one box out. That's it, right? And then maybe it'll be 2 boxes. Or maybe once you're in there, maybe you'll do more, maybe you won't. But that way you're not getting overwhelmed. And it's the same thing with weight training. A lot of times people will say, like for instance, this week, I didn't even, I didn't post for a few days there, so sorry about that, guys. But I didn't post for a few days because I got some food poisoning from some chicken. My fault. And I think there was something else going on as well, spiritually speaking, so I'm not going to really talk about that. But the bottom line is that I felt like shit for a day. And I didn't really eat that well for a couple of days, and then I couldn't train, and then I had to ease myself back into it. So the bottom line is that I know that working out sucks after taking 3 or 4 days off. It hurts like hell. Like when I get under the squat rack and I'm like, okay, I got to do some squats here, and it's like everything feels tight, everything sucks, everything burns, I'm sucking wind, everything, not fun. So a person, normal person, will really put that off. But what I'll do is I'll go in the gym and I'll say, listen, I'm just going to go in there, just go for the stretch, go for a feel. So I'll just squat 1 plate. Just squat 1 plate. I could squat 3.5 plates today. I squat 3 plates, 4 plates, 2 plates, whatever. But I'm just going to go squat 1 plate, just stretch out, just get the blood in there. And then I'm going to do some other light stuff, just squeeze. But I find a way to make it fun. You have to find a way to make it fun. Don't put this measuring system of accomplishment on things. That's what kills things. That's what makes you be a pessimist, because you're like, oh shit, if it doesn't work out this way, then I'm not fucking doing it, right? You have to approach things in a way that is fun for you. So you have to flip it, change it, do whatever it is that will make it fun for you. And that will lead you to more gains, because consistency, and even half-hearted consistency, will give you way more results than not doing anything at all, because you're expecting to do it perfect or nothing at all, right? That's the best way I can help you with that. Yeah, Stuart Cook, tracking a workout can help people stay motivated, maybe help them with not procrastinating. But the problem is that you may get some personality types, like we talked about before, that they track in their book and then one day they don't reach their goal, or they're not leaner that day, or they're not stronger that day. Maybe life threw them a curveball that day and something happened, so they couldn't diet properly, or they had a shitty workout, and then they get discouraged by tracking, you see? So I find tracking is good to a point, but it can be a double-edged sword, because at some point it can work against people. So they have to find a way to make this fun beyond what you accomplish. If I say I got to be Arnold Schwarzenegger every day, I got to be Mr. Universe every single day in order for me to walk in the gym, then I'm going to get discouraged really fast if I have a bad day, or if I have some ice cream one day, or maybe I get an injury or something happens or whatever, and then I can't be the end-all be-all. So if I come in here and say, no, I just enjoy the relationship with lifting weights and the feeling itself, and I'll find a way to enjoy that, that's going to encourage me a lot more. And I think that will be a much better strategy for long-term relationship in this game, instead of saying, shit, I got to do a PR every single time I walk in the gym, right? Jim Dano, he read somewhere that you should do more back work than chest work to prevent bad posture, rolled shoulders. What do you think? I would say for the average person, possibly this is possible at first, because most people don't do anything. They're rolled over at desk and stuff, and then they first get into the gym as a beginner. Then at first, maybe this is necessary to strengthen out those imbalances. But once you're balanced, then I would say, yeah, the chest needs just as much work as the back. The pushing needs just as much work. You need to kind of have a balance there, right? So it depends on a case-by-case basis, right? Some people have a lot of I think it's called kyphosis, where their back is totally rounded over. And if they have that, then I would say, yeah, they're the type of person that needs more back work than pressing work. Now, if a person is like, sticking like this and they walk around like this, and then maybe they need more chest work, right? So it just depends. It's on a case-per-case basis. It's kind of like saying, does a house need to be leaned more to the left or to the right? Well, it depends on which way it's leaning when you first see it, right? And then you make the decision from there. So as a general rule, if a person first walks into the gym and they're just hunched over a desk all day, that's the type of job they do, then yeah, most likely. Most likely people need a little bit more back work too, because most people don't work their back in everyday life. They're not doing overhead stuff. They're not doing anything where they bring the shoulders back or rowing a boat, or they're not doing any of that stuff. They just basically, the most exercise they get is just lifting their suitcase or something at their side or something like that. So, you know, and the funny thing is, Stuart Cook, you know, I've asked myself that question a lot of times. He says, the back is bigger, so it should need more work. That is funny, you know, because I thought that way, and I talked about that with myself a lot of times and asked myself that question. But the funny thing is, and this just might be me, I don't know, but this has been me my whole life. I found that when I did the big lifts, such as legs or back, I needed less sets because I was lifting so much weight for the sets, and it was almost more intense on the body that I didn't need as much volume in order to stimulate overall growth. It was weird. And when I did the smaller body parts and stuff, I needed almost to stimulate with higher amount of sets, and it didn't burden the overall system as much. So if anything, I noticed almost the opposite of that. I almost noticed that the bigger muscle groups take so much out of your body that if you do too many sets, it almost burns you out. So you don't need to do as much. I found that you don't need to do quite as much, yeah. So anyway, that's my experience. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what's given me some results. So if you think that my results are something special in some sort of way, then yeah, that's what I would say I discovered. Yeah. Reese 50, lots of overweight, injured old people with big backs. I would say nope. I would say most overweight, injured old people don't have big backs. They have fat backs, but that's not a big back. You don't see them with a lat spread, like lats out the, you know, with big traps. No, you don't see that. You see a lot of fat. Now, a lot of fat is different than a lot of muscle, I would say. You know, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I'm just saying I've seen a lot of fat people in my life. I went on some cruises down in the States, and you will never see more fat people in your life than on there. And there was some big fat backs, but I did not see big muscular backs on these people. So yeah, there would be a difference there. Jeffrey Smith, is visualization any part of your meditating? No, it's not. No. Visualization is not meditation, actually. Visualization is thinking. So if you're thinking, you're not meditating. Vikram Shukla, please answer this. Can we train a small muscle group 2 to 3 times in a week? I have weight training programs on my website on naturalgallantbodybuilding.com. Get the 2-day split. You will see exactly how I outline it, exactly how I do it, and the answer to your question is yes. Vikram Shukla, like I said, you can go on my website. I have a 2-day split. Try the 2-day split program, a program. It's pretty cheap. It's only $25. Try it out, and you will see exactly how I've outlined things in there. And there's A, B, C, and D program. The D program I'm working on right now. It's almost done. And yeah, you'll be able to take a look at that. And that is the way you should train to get big and strong. I think it really works well. So assuming that you're healthy, and you're not getting this program, like assuming I'm a personal trainer, because I'm not. This is just the programs that I've used and stuff. Yeah, try it out. See how it works for you. I got a cat hair on my nose now. All right. I think that's the end of the questions. Any more questions, guys? Kevin Cortez. Yeah, you're going to disagree with everything I say, Kevin, because that's kind of what you're doing today. That's kind of the theme on this video, so. Hey, Kevin, you think volume. You think volume. Okay. You think volume and intensity are more important than frequency. So you're saying you think that. So what does that mean? You think. So let me ask you a question. Is what you think more valid than what somebody has experienced? including yourself. Because you might have a theory. Maybe this is a theory you have. I don't know if it's really your experience, but it's one thing I've noticed on the internet. People think a lot. They talk a lot. They say, I think this is really what the truth is. Yeah. And then I say, well, this is what I actually experienced. They say, no, I don't think that's true. Okay, really? All right. Well, in my world, experience trumps thinking. Right? You can think all you want. I can think that there's such thing as a little fairy goblin that lives in my dumbbell rack that lifts the dumbbells for me every time I do bench presses. But if I experience the fact that I have to lift those damn things every time I put them in my hands, then that's the truth. So experiences can change. Okay, so experience. Good, Kevin, thanks. We're having a good discussion here, Kevin, so I'm just, thanks for just enjoying this with me here. But yeah, so thinking is important. It can be where a theory starts, but in the end, experiencing is the most important. And I will say that volume and intensity are important, 100%. I'm not saying they aren't important, but the biggest factor that changed the results in my training was frequency. It was frequency. It was actually, I noticed that something automatically started to happen in the body when I trained it more often that trumped volume and intensity. It was like I could only manifest so much volume in one session and so much intensity in one session, and my body could only recover so much from one session that it seemed like there was something lacking, and that's when the callus principle came to me. Remember? The callus principle. And I noticed that the body seemed to respond better to small amounts of stimulus, but more often, and it got way stronger doing that. And it was the basis of the Bulgarian weightlifters. And I started to train like this, and I didn't want to. I thought it was stupid at first, but my brother started doing it, and a friend of ours, and they started making all these gains in their strength. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I've been doing my 3-day split, 4-day split, bro split type thing, and I'm getting some good gains. But my gains had stopped for a long time. But as soon as I changed over to the 2-day split program, to something that was more frequent, and then, of course, I increased my frequency even from there at some point for periods of time, but changed the rep ranges accordingly to be able to accommodate this frequent training. My gains went through the roof. Totally different level of gains. And that's what happened. So I would say my experience says frequency trumps all of it. It's kind of like the royal flush, So my 2-day split is more than upper and lower. Yes, it's different than that. It's not quite the same. Yeah. Vikram, you could train with heavyweight and frequency at the same time. You just don't want to do heavyweight every single time you're training it. Otherwise, you may overtrain, right? Yeah, but in the end, Reese, if I eat poison, okay, I'm just going to play with you here because this is fun. So I make this shit fun. If I drink poison and then I die, that would trump thinking, wouldn't it? That's not objective. I mean, that's not subjective, right? It's very objective. It's just stimulus, result, done. No subjectiveness in that. So yeah, your experience of something can be different than your result. So I'm saying if there's a result, a measurable result that is different, then that will trump thinking, okay? Okay, was my volume the same before I switched to higher frequency? I did as much volume as I possibly could in every single workout, Kevin. I pushed it to the highest realm that I found sane for me, staying in the gym for 2 hours at a time. And then the only thing I could do was then I actually lowered the volume and then switched to a higher frequency, and it worked better. And Stuart Cook, could that happen in your 40s? I don't see any reason why not. There's a reason why I train the way I do. When I train a body part just once in a while, I find I don't get the same results as when I pump blood into it almost every day or close to it, every second day or something. It seems to be much better. Andrew Joel, the 2-day split is a 5 to 6 day a week program where you go day 1, day 2, day 1, day 2, day 1, day 2, but I outline all the days of the week in there, in that split. Vikram Shukla, should a beginner use BCAAs? There's no reason why not. BCAAs are just amino acids that help your recovery, so you could do that, yeah. So Jason Rivera is sharing the Norwegian study saying that the two groups had the same volume. The variable was the frequency. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. He's saying that the volume was the frequency. He's saying the variable was the frequency, and the frequency group had better results. Yeah. Yeah, it is a great one. Jason Mullins, keto diet for bodybuilding? I don't know. I never used it, so just so you know. I mean, the thing is, people mix up bodybuilding and dieting. And dieting is not necessarily bodybuilding. So there's a lot of obsession with really inactive people, or inactive, I guess that's the proper word, inactive. A lot of inactive people in North America that are severely overweight. And in a lot of cases, it's not their fault. I'm not even actually blaming them in a lot of cases, as much as some people say, oh yeah, a person's fat, it's their fault, they did all the wrong shit in their life and whatever, and they're stupid or something. That's really not the case. The North American public have been poisoned. Poisoned by the water supply, poisoned by toxins in the environment, poisoned by GMO foods. All these things are affecting how the body is depositing body fat. I went to Italy about 3 years ago, I think it was 2-3 years ago, and I watched people, they're smoking, they're drinking, and they're eating foods like processed foods like prosciutto and pepperoni and all this kind of stuff. And I've never seen a healthier dynamic of people. There were so many people walking around in their 70s, 80s, no arthritis, there's no wheelchairs, there's no disabled people, barely any of them. They were all fine, functioning fine. And the thing is, and the difference was, they did not have GMO food. GMOs and preservatives that we take for granted as normal in our North American country do not exist there. They're illegal there. So the bottom line is that the thing is with North American public, they're being poisoned 100%. And this is causing the body to respond differently. So that said, because of that, there's been a lot of diets that have been coming out based on the artificiality of this North American diet, and saying, okay, here's how we're going to have to compensate for everybody being overweight. We're going to have to limit this food, limit that food, limit this food, all this kind of stuff. So these are all things that may work to lose body fat, but they're not necessarily the best things to grow a body. To grow a body, to grow muscle tissue, you need nourishment. You need the nutrients to do this. And yeah, you don't need body fat, you don't need fat all the time, but you do need protein and the carbs to support that, and the vitamins and minerals. So when I say I don't know about keto diet, well, yeah, maybe a good way to burn some body fat off. But whenever you're at a deficit of calories, deficit of food, it's not the best time to build muscle. It's not the best way. Yeah, Kevin Cortez, again, you disagree with me again, so I'm just going to tell you right now. Calorie deficit is what's most important. That's what he's saying. Not worrying about carbs and all that shit. I'm going to tell you right now, buddy. Again, you must read a lot on the internet, because this is a typical statement that comes from people that read, but not necessarily experience. Calories are not calories. They're not. The protein will respond totally different in your system than if you take in the same amount of calories of just pure carbs. And it's the same thing with fat. If you just put in the same amount of calories through fats, you will have a totally different experience of your day and how you walk about, how your energy runs, everything. It will affect every system in your body. So it is not just calories in, calories out. It is not. Macronutrients do matter. They do cause a totally different experience in the body. I've changed my carbs around, I've changed my fats around, I've eaten just any food whatsoever. Absolutely, totally different experience in my body, and my body, not subjectively, it objectively changed 100% different with the same calorie count. So again, I'm sharing with you experience. You can believe it or not, but I knew a guy that dieted for a bodybuilding show. This is the benefit of being fucking old, okay? This guy dieted, saying to me, and he was talking just like you just said right there. With arrogance, he was actually talking to me. Jason, you're an idiot. That's exactly what he was saying to me, okay? Pretty straight up guy, nice guy, but he was an asshole in a lot of ways. But he just said, Jason, you're an idiot. You're just lowering your carbs down and upping your protein and doing that whole bodybuilder thing. But I'm going to do lower calories, and I'm going to show up to this competition. And I'm going to just, you know, keep my calories around because calories in, calories out, that's all it is. So guess what he'd do? He'd have his glass of wine or his 2 glasses of wine a day, and he'd eat his food here and there, and then he'd load his calories to a certain point. And you know what he did? He showed up at the bodybuilding show like a beached effing whale. Everybody on the stage was laughing at him. But you know what he did? He just counted his calories. It was all about calories, no problem. It doesn't matter what type of calories. Jason, you're just stupid. So he showed up fat as hell. You know, he didn't even show up close to the condition that he showed up at another contest where he actually paid attention to the type of macros that he took in. So I think as a general rule, yes, calories matter, but they're only one factor in a much bigger plan or a much bigger tapestry of what's happening. Okay, so there's not this absolute thing, but everybody's trying to oversimplify the shit out of everything and say it's just this or just that, right? So anyway, cat hair in the nose. Don't do that to yourselves, guys. Yeah, Kevin Cortez, I know you've experienced it to a point, but I'm going to say there's a limit in your experience that I'm adding on to. So just so you know, but I know you're not trying to be an ass. So sorry, Kevin. I'm just. It's just kind of funny how this is coming up. You just seem to be coming up with a comment that just contradicts everything that I've known to be true. But it's pretty funny. Yeah. So Patrick L, there you go. You're saying some studies show that high-fat diets cause people to burn more calories than high-carb, but the same calories being eaten. I know. Funny, right? So these different deviations would not be happening if all calories were just a calorie. They just would not happen. Because say you have a higher fat diet, higher protein diet, but low carb diet, now you're going to have more stable blood sugar, possibly, you know. This also will boil down to genetics, boil down to your own genetic heritage and your DNA and all this and what your body seems to function based on your food sensitivities, all this. But the bottom line is that you will notice very strongly that you will have a totally different frickin' workout depending on what you are eating for that week and depending on the macronutrient profile. So yeah, inescapable reality. Yeah, thanks. How dare you question Lord Gallant? Yeah, how dare you? Yes. Yeah, Stuart Crook, the reason why I said he's nice but an asshole is because he is actually a real big asshole now. This one guy that I'm talking about, that I had this debate with. And anyway, I know him quite well, but he's, anyway, let's just say this. He has a lot of really weird things that he thinks are the right philosophies in life when they're plainly not working for him. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Vikram, I have a video on that. What are supplements that I use? I don't use any supplements at this exact moment. I don't have any. But sometimes I like to use branched chain amino acids. Sometimes some glutamine. I haven't used creatine for a long time. And some protein powder. Yeah. Patrick L, that is a very good comment. He's saying food is information to the body about the environment that it is in. And my wife being a very powerful spiritual healer, an energetic healer, information you will say or see is in everything. And sometimes that's why you might eat vegetables out of your garden, or you might, like I eat the mulberries out of the front yard, because this information that is not tainted by GMO or any kind of messed up sort of distortion or mental construct of some sort, it naturally is in balance with the environment. And that's really what you want. You want your body to be naturally in balance with the environment, and then it'll be able to take care of cancers and all this kind of stuff and different things that are going on in the body. So yeah, food can be information for sure. And different foods will have different information, but fake foods will always have the shitty information. There's no doubt about that. Okay, Patrick, I'll stop using potatoes because the GMO makes more poison in the potato that caused it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, I'll just come down the bottom. Okay, so Vikram Shukla, does creatine affect kidneys? You know, look up some research on creatine and kidneys and stuff like that. But my brother is a naturopathic doctor, and he's pretty adamant about the fact that creatine is safe for the kidneys and good for them, actually. There's some studies that creatine has actually helped kidneys. So the problem comes from people hating or demonizing creatine is that creatinine is the waste product that comes from creatine. And it's also the same waste product that comes from your muscles when your body like excretes the creatine that's stored in there, because there's a certain period of time where there's creatine in, creatine out, you know. The bottom line is, when creatinine is excreted, it is a sign that the body is catabolizing some of the protein tissue in the body, which is a sign that there might be some kidney disease. But if you're taking in more creatine, then there will be more excretion of creatinine without any catabolization of the muscle, without the body eating the muscle, without there being kidney disease. It's just that there's more coming out in the bloodstream. And that is where the misunderstanding around creatine being bad for the kidneys comes from, is that people are misunderstanding that the test itself isn't telling you the whole picture. The test is based on a certain level of creatine that you're taking in, but not necessarily based on more coming into the system, right? Yeah. Jamie Bristow, what are you saying? Jamie Bristow, what are you saying? Hey, Julian Moore, how are you doing? Hey, Jamie Bristow, you want to talk here, buddy? You're saying something there. No, this is coffee. What are you talking about? Are you trying to be a prick or something? Do you want to ban you, or are you being a nice guy? Like, come on, be a little more clear of what you're saying. I'll just wait till he responds here. I never promoted orange juice for post-workout there, Jamie. I never promote. Okay, so I'm just trying to find out what you're saying here, because I've been trolled like crazy today. So I'm just, yeah, it's somebody else. Okay, so I thought you're just trying to be a smart ass or something. Like, what are you saying here? Okay, sorry about that. All right. Am I married? Okay. Yes, I am, but not. Anyway, I'll just say yes. I'm in a relationship, and it's the same as marriage. So. If I was training a guy who hadn't lifted before, which of my splits would I start him out on? I would say the 3-day per week workout, or the 2-day split if they wanted to get in the gym a lot, but I'd probably lower the volume a little bit for them if they hadn't trained before. So the important thing with a person that just started, it's about them knowing how to do the exercises. It isn't as much about the volume as it is about the exercises. And the first week or two, they might want to do a much lower volume and a much more conservative weight, just to make sure that they're erring on the side of caution, right? Ognash Ziz, would you recommend doing grip work for novices and beginners? Not really. I've never done any grip work in my life. I don't know, it's weird, like on the internet there's this obsession right now, and I've been getting this a lot lately. It's almost like, I don't know whether people are trying to just find ways they can beat the big bodybuilders at their own game or something, because years ago people were like, oh, that guy's got a good chest or good arms or good this, but now it's almost like people are moving to weirder body parts now and saying, oh yeah, now it's like, how do I get just a bigger neck up here, or how do I get better earlobes, or how do I get bigger forearms? It's almost like they're trying to find a way that they can actually beat the big time famous bodybuilders and just be better at a different game or something. Because I've never had so many, sorry, is this cat here still getting me? Every time I pet my cat. Yeah, but ear gains. So it's almost like there's this obsession with people trying to just outdo somebody and then say, oh, look at me, I'm better. I've got better finger biceps than you have. So that means I'm better than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at that thing, right? Like, so I'm getting all these people asking me about how to build forearms and build their neck. Like, they're like, I've never worked my neck my whole life, but people are like obsessed with my neck, and they're obsessed with my forearms. I never ever worked my forearms. Never. I've never worked my forearms. And they don't believe me. So it's so freaking funny, right? So they're just like obsessed with it. It's like, so yeah, it's getting weirder out there. It's getting weirder on the net, man. I don't really follow anybody there, Vikram, so I can't really tell you exactly what the feeder workout is or whatever. So yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah, hang weights off your earrings with a string if you have earrings. Yeah, that's right. get those ear gains going. Okay, so Digweed says, do you have Mexican food in your neck of the woods? If so, do you think Mexican food minus the tortillas, good nutrition for bodybuilding? I ask because I'm Mexican. Yeah, beans and rice are not so bad. I mean, if you're on a carb type side of things, as long as they're not cooking it in oil and everything, or not too much oil. I mean, you want a very small amount. And then you'd have to add some meat or something to it, I guess, some chicken or something. But yeah, I would eat that. I love the spicy stuff. I love like all the spices and things. And yeah, nothing wrong with that. If you're on a hardcore cut, then you wouldn't be eating some of those things. But beans and rice, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just complex carbs and protein, right? So it's pretty good. And no, I don't have any Mexican food in my neck of the woods. But yeah, you're talking about, like he's saying no tortilla though, right? You're saying, and Reese is saying Mexican food has too much corn in it, abused a GMO crop that cannot be good for you. No, of course not. And I 100%, but the Mexican food I've had doesn't have corn in it. So, you know, if I'm not eating the tortilla shell, okay? So that's what I'm saying. So Marvin Payne is saying, can you get elbow pain from doing bicep curls without variation, like hammer curls, etc.? Yeah, you can have elbow pain from that if you're locking the joints out of the bottom. So say you're doing preacher curls and you're straightening the arm too much, you can get some elbow pain from that for sure. And you can get elbow pain, say you have something going on in the elbow joint because you're straightening the arms during lat pull downs or from chin ups or something, you're straightening your arms out like this, and you're just hanging off the joints and stuff, then when you go to do biceps, you may be getting elbow pain from that. So sometimes it's a side effect of something else you're doing wrong. Stuart Crook, yes, I eat fruit. If you watch the day in the life video, you see that I'm just ravaging the mulberry bush in the front of my house. So yeah, I'll eat blueberries. Berries and stuff are actually fine. I'll eat apples as well. And I'll have some oranges here and there. I don't have much bananas and things, but not that I just don't like them that much, but I don't have anything against them. But yeah, I do eat some fruit, yeah. I like to vary up the diet for nutrients, right? So. Okay, Marvin Payne. Damn, yeah, I got it from Preacher. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, Preacher curls. If you're straightening the arms too much on Preacher, and also you got to remember with Preacher curls, because of the angle of the tack, see, all the stress is on this part of the movement, not this part. So this is when the most amount of stress is going to be on those tendons, right? So the bottom line is that you cannot be addressing that type of movement with rep ranges of 5 or 10 reps. Stay with 15 to 30 reps, somewhere in there. Do not be going super heavy in there because it's an exponential amount of stress on the bicep tendon, and that will mess your elbow up. And that's the least of your worries. Messing your elbow up a little bit is the least of your worries because that elbow pain might be a sign of a possible bicep tear that will be coming your way. So that's another thing you want to really avoid, right? Yeah. Marvin Payne. Yes, you're in pain there, Marvin. You don't have to live up to your last name there, buddy. Okay, so Bill Lee's saying he pretty sure he injured his shoulder doing incline flies. Any advice other than you don't do them? Bend your arms more. Bend your arms more when you do them, and don't come down quite as low. That's the best advice I can give you, because if you injured them, then you might be coming down too low and then basically overextending the bicep tendon, and you may be jamming the bicep tendon a bit. Yeah, Kevin Cortez, heavy curls is different than heavy preacher curls, just so you know. So. Well, Vikram, how can you avoid a biceps tear is, well, never extend your arm and relax at the end and then try to lift weight like that. Don't try to lift weight like this, you know, and bend at the same time. Like, you never try to straighten and put your body in a super weakened state and then basically try to use the biceps. So too much range of motion, that's the bottom line. But you have to also pay attention to the forces and how they run. And if you're doing a preacher curl and you're on here, the forces are just so extreme here compared to here. And this is where, like in the contracted state, you're at least risk for a tear. It's only in the extreme stretch state. That's when you're in the most stressed state, right? So. Well, what are the symptoms of biceps tear? Don't worry, Vikram, you will know when the biceps tear. It's a big tearing feeling, and you'll have purple arms and all this. It's not a minor thing. Chris Whitehead, why are you asking the question? Any fear about ligaments and tendons becoming weak? Why would you think that ligaments and tendons have become weak? Fuck Chris. You're a nice man, but I'm not doing partial movements. Let's have this discussion, man. I've had it a million times now, and I'm not doing partial movements. Why do you think I'm doing partial movements? Chris, what part of partial movements do I do? I don't do partial movements. I do full range movements. Right? Full range. Full range for my body type. That's the whole basis of this channel. Train the muscles, not the joints. And I just said earlier in this program that no matter what range you do, your joints are already getting half the frickin' stress. So you think that tendons can actually grow like muscles? You think that ligaments grow like muscles? They don't. They don't respond like that. They don't thicken up and gain like massive amounts of ability to. They don't grow the same as muscles. It's just a fact. They're not made of the same material. So I don't train with partial movements. I'm waiting for you to respond there, Chris. Come on, man. Come out here. Come out and play. You made a comment now. I'm giving you shit because you're not paying attention to my teachings here. Where are you, Chris? Come on. I'm almost on here for 3 hours now. Yeah, I'm getting tired because it's 3 hours now. 3 hours I've been on here there, Jay. Yeah. But it's not just that. It's just that I've actually answered this question a million times on here. So this is actually a grade 1 question that I've actually adjusted this 1,000 times. So I'm always surprised sometimes that people still misunderstand what it is I'm teaching when I've actually outlined this a lot, right? So basically, the thing is that full range is not jujitsu. And what most people think full range is that, oh, I'm going to take the muscle, the joint to here. Okay, now let's snap it right in half. Let's break the arm, and that's full range. How does that make sense? That doesn't make sense at all. And that's the same thing when it comes down to any exercise. When you're doing squats, when you're doing deadlifts, and you're doing bench presses, there's going to be an ideal range for you. But if you go beyond that, what happens is all the stress goes to the joint and none of it on the muscle. And then somehow people think this might be a good thing because there's some idiots on the internet right now, on YouTube. One guy that was slandering me specifically, he's handicapped at such a deep level that I don't even want to go there and call him out publicly. But the bottom line is that there is this thing that people think that, oh, by bouncing on the joints, somehow that's going to make the joints stronger. And it won't. All that will happen is that you'll tear it right off the bone. And then you'll need to get it reattached. And that won't make you stronger. 100%. It'll just make you injured and you'll never be able to train the same way again. That's it. So I know what it's like to enjoy that when I pop the shoulder out on the ice. When I was skating and I popped my shoulder out by basically getting tripped up, and then my legs were up in the air and I tried to do a one-handed push-up at the same time as my arms slid out weird. You know, that's a primary example of when the stress is all on the joint, right? So that's the thing. Full ranges are full range for muscle, not full range around the joint. Because my range, if I'm relaxed, is different than if I have weight in my hand. And if you don't know the difference between these two things, that's why you're getting injured. 100%. Right? Just because I can do this with my arms doesn't mean I want to fly like this with weight and then come up. Does that seem right to you? Right? No, seriously. Take this again. Relaxed, right? And then come up. that seems like the right thing because I can relax back here, right? Now my biceps and tendons and everything are relaxed. That's actually my full range. So if I'm full range, and then I come up like all the way down. Now I put 50-pound dumbbells in there, and I'm going to relax in the bottom. That seems like a smarter way to train to you? This is psychosis at this point. If I have to explain this to people, then there's a real problem. They're going to be really injured really badly, and I have to let them conduct that experiment on their own. But this is not going to make your joints stronger. It's not. It's just going to basically wreck them. And at some point, they get so wrecked that you won't be able to train anymore, and that's it. So active range and passive range is totally different. When you are doing active range, you are keeping tension on the muscle, so that way the joint can be protected. But once you cannot maintain that tightness, and once you feel the stress transfer from the bellies deep into the insertion points, you can actually feel that pressure, and it's like a pressure, like it's gonna pop, right? That's when you need to come back up. If it starts to get way too much pressure, that means you're coming down too low. And there's a point of diminishing return where you're overstretching, and that overstretching is actually causing, now the joints are taking 9 times the pressure that the muscles are, because the muscles are already gone way beyond their stretch, and now they're actually relaxed now. Half of them are relaxed, and then the ones that are trying to keep the joint together are straining like crazy, and then at some point when they can't do their job anymore, then something will tear, and that's it, right? So Olympic lifters usually do full range. Yes, they do full range, but you do not see what they do when they're doing something wrong. Like you don't see how many of them actually drop the bar on their head or dislocate their shoulder by doing Olympic lifts. I know a guy, he had an Olympic lifting career and he actually dislocated his shoulder, and that was it, the end of his career, done, just like that. Because he went way beyond, relaxing, trying to hold that bar, and then that's it, done. I talk to an Olympic lifter every second day at Murph's gym. And he says, yeah, I train my L4 and my L5. Like he knows 100% this is not the best way to train for weight training longevity. It's just a challenge that he's doing right now because he enjoys it. But it is not because it is the best way to train the body. Okay? Now again, I have immense respect for anybody that can do Olympic lifting or any of that kind of stuff, but you have to be built for it, first of all. Squatting ass to the grass while you maintain straight up and down has to be, a parameter. You have to be able to meet that parameter in order to do it. And this has to be something that's a natural range for you. And if that's a natural range where you can maintain tension on your legs and stuff, no problem. Then it's fine. But if you can't do that and you're forcing yourself to do it by relaxing on the knee joints and everything, then yeah, at some point something will tear or pop or something, right? I don't think Olympic lifters are still training in their 60s. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, and that's exactly it, Digweed. You only use full range when you're stretch or do yoga. And you notice that when you're stretching, it's totally different range of motion than when you're doing your low tension on the muscles, and then your range is totally different. So stretching range of motion is different than tension range of motion, and that's something that seems to be a lost logic on a lot of people on YouTube right now. I don't know why. I don't know why the average person just cannot fucking get that. They're saying, oh, Jason, like I had a guy talking to me today, and it's just like, man, maybe he's a nice guy and everything, but at the same time, his logic was totally flawed. He was saying, Jason, primitive caveman has to be able to shit so everybody can squat ass to the grass because we all have to squat in the woods and shit. Well, just because you squat and shit doesn't mean you squat and lift 5,000 pounds on your back. Like, watch this. Watch this. I can kneel on my knees right now. I can relax like this. But does this mean I want to put 500 pounds on my back or put this kind of stress and torque on my knees? Right? I can seriously do this. I can squat against the grass right now. I have no problem squatting against the grass. I can squat down like that. But squatting ass to the grass under body weight tension is totally different than squatting ass to the grass with 500 pounds or 300 pounds or 200 pounds. You know, at that point, the forces become so extreme on certain areas that it's not necessarily the most ideal way of doing it. So ass to grass is not necessarily bad. It just could be bad for a certain person depending on how they're built. Again, I'm always talking about that. It's about a person per person basis. But if you have to relax the muscles, if you have to relax the muscles when you have weights on your hands or in your arms or on your back, if you have to relax the muscles to get into that range of motion, you shouldn't be doing it. That's my point. You shouldn't be doing it because now all the stress is going to the joints and that is going to cause an immense amount of devastation for you. So the only reason why I can get away with it with bench press, because I kind of relax the chest a bit, is because the bar actually stops the momentum when it hits my chest. But it's not because that's really the best policy, honestly. Ashley Jones, you should keep your triceps and biceps and shoulders tight when you deadlift. Yes, you shouldn't just relax them. There's no way they should be relaxed, let's put it that way. When you're in a straight range, like for instance, when that bar is hanging down like this, okay, and your arms are tight and they're hanging down, well, the muscles are keeping the joint together, see? So the whole point is what I'm talking about is that when you relax, see, relax now you're gonna pop your arm right off, or you're just gonna basically sever it all together if you put enough force in there. The only thing that keeps your arm on is the ligaments, right? The ligaments will actually tear off if the muscles aren't keeping everything together. See? Tricep connects across the elbow joint, bicep, forearms connect across. This keeps everything tight. Boom. Should be tight when you deadlift. Should be tight when you deadlift. That's the point. So even if your arms are straight, it's okay, but you need to keep them tight. Now, the reason why also is because the forces are going like this. Now, if the forces were going like, my arm was like this and the forces were going like this, trying to break my arm, yeah, you definitely want to keep the arm slightly bent to compensate for that force. That's what you'd want to do. Julian Morer is saying, so do I recommend Romanian deadlifts or squats for glutes? I'd say squats, one-legged squats, mostly on a Smith machine actually. Stuart Crook, this guy is a wind-up. What do you mean there, buddy? What are you saying? I'm right here. You can't have a conversation about me without talking. I mean, I can hear everything and read everything you're saying here. So, come on, Stuart. I'm waiting for your response there, buddy. New shorts? I don't think these are new. No, these are older shorts, but I wear the same shorts all the time. I gotta get new shorts, honestly. Stuart, yes, made my tip. You said I'm a wind-up. Did you say I'm a wind-up? What are you talking about? I'm trying to get my point across from 17 different angles at once, so. Dean Cook, should you go to the gym with tonsillitis? You should try talking to your doctor about that. I don't really know, to tell you the truth. Oh, not me. Okay, you're talking to somebody else. Inescapable. Oh, okay. Arrest Cosmos. I'm drinking coffee, but it's just that shit coffee that's like a. It's a. Well, I won't say the name because then I'll get sued. But anyway, the bottom line is, it's just like it's just a name. It's just a instant coffee, so there's not much caffeine in it, honestly. Yeah. My cat just went down there. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Toby Joy, have I ever trained with special bars? I never felt the need to tell you the truth. What's my opinion on mind-muscle connection? It exists. it just naturally happens when you get more coordinated. Jackson Price, you've got long arms for your height. Any advice on filling them out? Well, bicep curls and triceps. You got to do the bicep stuff and the triceps. I did having trouble building biceps video. Watch that. Just look it up on the little magnifying glass down there. And I also have a playlist, if you check my playlist out, on building certain body parts on there, so you can check out training arms. And I give you some tips, not chips, I give you some tips and tricks on how to build arms. So, oh, I missed your joke. Sorry, Stuart. I don't know. Marvin Payne, knee sleeves for legs, even if you have pain. I'd say no. I'd say no knee sleeves. I'd say address why you have pain. That's the most important thing. If the muscle's not functioning properly, is there muscle knots in there, something that a massage therapist can address? Is there a ligament issue? Do you need some prolotherapy? Is there a MCL tear or something like that? What's going on? Depends what's going on, right? If you have a tear, like say something's torn off the bone, like say there's an MCL tear or ACL tear or something like that, and then you can't get into surgery, right? If you can't get into surgery and this is the only way you can kind of stabilize your knee, in that case I can see that using knee sleeves might be necessary in order to keep yourself from laterally popping your knee out in the middle of a lift or something like that, in case that's a problem or if it's a real risk. At that point I would say maybe, you know, although I know guys that have MCL tears that didn't, like anything straight up and down, squats and stuff, it was never a problem. It was only lateral movement that was usually the problem for them. So they didn't actually need a knee sleeve, right? See you, Julian. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to end it there. That was about 3 hours here. And hey, Paulo. Oh, Paulo, you just missed me, man. I was just on for 3 hours here. Inescapable reality. What do I think about not counting sets? Whatever motivates you is more important. So basically, if you are motivated from counting reps and sets, then good. If you're motivated by overall volume, then good. Whatever motivates you, just stick to that. I think that's good. You have to work with your mind. Your mind is your biggest obstacle, their inescapable reality, as you and I know. So that is really what you want to do. You don't want to get too stuck in one way of doing something, even though you're not enjoying it, right? So find a way to enjoy it and then do that. Either way is right. Whatever way is challenging to you, if you just challenge or push the muscles to failure, you're going to get results. That's it. So, cool, guys. So thanks a lot to any of you guys that have decided or who have decided to be a part of my Patreon thing. I'd really appreciate it if a few more of you people went on there to help support the channel. That would really help me out. And if you can't, no big deal. I'll still pay attention to you anyway and pay you some attention in the comments and talk to you and do these live chats from time to time. But at the same time, thanks. Oh, great. Thanks, Dean. Yeah, it's nice seeing you. So I'm here for you guys anyway. I'm not going to abandon anybody or anything, but I am going to find a way to reward some of the people that are on the Patreon page just to make sure they think that their money's not going down the drain here. So, Dimitri Akot, how you doing, buddy? So yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. And I'm going to do another stream probably sometime this week or something, but I'm going to put up some more videos and then, you know, I'll jump on some random time. So pay attention to the Facebook page. No problem there, Vikram. And if you want, just go down, click down on beside the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. Then click down beside it on receiving notifications, so that way you get a notification when I go live, so you won't miss it next time. All right? Yeah, Paulo. I'll wait. I'll do those dance tutorials for you. That's right. That's what I'll be Patreon, right? Yeah, thanks. All right, guys. All right. Well, you take care of yourselves, and then I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and take care for now, eh?